6:32.
6:30. Where is it? Is there what? Oh, my wife's working. I'd like to call the regular planning board meeting of the City of Laconia. It's Tuesday, April 5th, 2016, and it is 6:32, and I call the meeting to order. The recording secretary this evening will be Galena Graham. Thank you very much. And would you please call the roll of the members of the planning board?
Michael Lonnie.
Here.
Jay Goodman.
Here.
Dale Denayo.
Here.
Council Bounds.
Here.
Gary Myers.
Here.
Bill Contardo.
Here.
John Richards.
Here.
Hamilton McLean.
Here.
Edmund Bonas.
Here.
Chair Hutchins.
Thank you. And with us this evening is our planning director, Shanna Saunders, and assistant director, Brandy Laughlin. They're all full appointed members of the planning board are here. And so, Michael, this evening you can fully participate, but we won't ask you to vote.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. Let me just review the agenda. It may save people time. The first thing is going to be extensions. Then on the continued public hearing section, section 4 of the agenda, the 153 Church Street, that's going to be continued until the next month. The Provincial Road, Applegate Apartments, waiver request for underground utilities, that is going, at the applicant's request, going to be continued until the next meeting. The public hearing of Provincial Road two-lot subdivision, that also has been requested to be continued until the next meeting. And so what will take place is the extension request first for Proctor's Lake House Cottage, and then we'll move to a conceptual presentation on the proposal for the addition to the existing correctional facility here in Laconia, and then from there into an application and acceptance for the boundary line adjustment out on Bean Road. So the very first thing I'd like to do is to preempt the agenda, and right at the get-go is to thank Shanna Saunders. This is her last day of employment here at the City of Laconia, and I can only say that, given my experience of both the military and private corporations, being senior officers, and I've hired and managed officers and directors at very high levels, you are exceptionally talented.
Thank you.
Your ability of not only your educational background of bachelor's and graduates, but your work here at Laconia and the way you have learned and applied, and you have not been a in-box, out-box person. You have aggressively presented to us opportunities for improving the city, not only the park system, but the regulations, the ordinances, the changes. In fact, our architectural guidelines have been receiving attention throughout the entire state, because it provides for applicants assistance prior to the process. So I look forward to hoping that someday our paths will cross again, because I just think the world of you, because you not only produce results, but the way you interact with people. You blend the regulations with the desires of applicants and the desires of our political leadership and the board here, and truly, I have no paper to give you to hang on the wall, just my undying gratitude that you did serve the city so well.
Did that. Thank you very much. And I just, for the record, I could not have done it without all of you guys as well. I know many of you are long-serving, some of you are short-serving, but you guys are the ones that take the votes, that look at what I do, that push me in the directions that we went in. So, I'm going to give that back to you and say, keep up the good work, definitely.
That's very kind of you. And I hope I didn't embarrass you. Well, you should not be. It should be just a recognition.
Thank you.
We're going to miss you.
Thank you.
Then we'll move in back on to the formal agenda, where there was a presentation section, and so that's where I did it, of extensions. And it's application number 06-007, SU map lot 173-248-3, 1144 Weirs Boulevard, so named as Proctor's Lake House Cottages, and they're requesting an extension of their completion date. Would the applicant like to come forward and address the board?
Good evening.
Oh, the senior.
Can I move here to do that? Sure.
Keep spread out.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you all very much for having me back again for another year.
Just for the record, could you identify yourself, please?
Fred Clausen, owner of Proctor's Lake House Cottages, and my son Patrick is here in case I need support.
Great, thank you.
And I just wanted to echo what you said, Warren, about Shanna. We've had a very nice relationship for 12, 13, 14 years now. I was on the first charrette walking tour with her, and when she went around the Weirs, so we have good memories going back, but we hope to see you again, too.
Thank you.
Last year, you did give us the extension with one caveat, that you wanted us to have a meeting in October to present where we thought we would be for an official starting date of our project, and we didn't do that. And we had reasons for not doing it. We spent a lot of time working on competitive market analysis, and we could not come up with anything that meant any sense to us as far as a price and/or a starting date for the project. We are still, our main concern is the marketability of the project in the Laconia area. The next thing we did is we talked to Rod Dyer, and he's on vacation tonight, or else he probably would have been here. But we decided to take a different approach.
Just for the record, could you identify who Rod Dyer is,
I'm
please?
sorry, our attorney was, I still call it Westcott Millman Dyer, Westcott Law, PA.
Thank you.
And we decided to go back to one of our original discussions that we had with the planning board with Rod, and it had to do with, is there really grounds to have an extension on filing with the Attorney General for New Hampshire? So we hired him to do a lot of research, and his staff, into the different cases of RSA 356B5, and he came up with what he felt was enough information to do a memorandum, which you all should have in your package. I think it's 3.5 pages. And we provided this to Shanna back in February, and as of yet, we still don't have an answer. We had asked that it be submitted to the city's attorney, and we don't have an answer, so we really don't know what the city's opinion is of that. So I'm kind of going in a little blind without Rod here and without hearing any comments on that. We still feel that, although you've given, as Shanna says, a conditional approval, we still feel that the annual extension requirement shouldn't be placed on us based on Rod's findings. And that's our main approach as far as going through all the details tonight. I was told that you do get the information ahead of time, so I hope you've read, some of the stuff. The legal stuff is a little on the tough side, but since Rod isn't here, I did want to point out that so many of the comments that they had in there said that the conditions were unreasonable when they relate to the use of land and not to the person to whom it's to be exercised. And it seems that the condition as far as the extension is based on me as the owner, not on the land. We didn't ask for any special exceptions. We just went with a straight condo conversion, which we understand is guaranteed by the RSA 356B. So we still disagree with the fact that you can have the one-year extension. The only thing we haven't done is file with the Attorney General's office. And we've given reasons in my cover letter for that. And just to reiterate that we are very concerned that the assessor's office could change our tax basis. They haven't in the past, from best we can tell. We have not had a determination from them, but they could, once we go condo, start charging us based on the true value of each unit. And that would destroy us until we would sell. Another important thing is to sell partially some units on a condo basis and have some on a rental basis. It's hard for us as owners to wear two hats and have rules that apply, for example, pets, no pets for the guests and pets for the owners. So we have to do it all or nothing, and that's why we feel with the market conditions right now that we can't do it all or nothing. And we're, again, looking for you to drop the one-year extension, but we're also, as a second choice, would be what we've gone with all along, is to have another one-year extension. What I like to do, and I did this last year and I updated it, if I could just pass this around, Kayleen, if you start that. The best example, and it's from what I can see from all the studying I've done on the condo conversion markets, this particular unit is a unit that we own at Eastern Shore Condo, which is formerly Swedish Village. And this shows you what the Assessor's Department has done with the values. And this is really a mirror of what has happened to all of Eastern Shores and a mirror that's happened to a lot of the condo conversions in Laconia. When we bought it, we paid $155. When we applied to the planning board back in '06-07, it had been up to a value of $218,700, and it hit a high value in 2009 of $232. Dropped down last year to $88,000, and now it's $107,000. This shows you what the Assessor Department thinks of the condo market in Laconia. We could not afford to sell Proctor's based on $107,000 or even $150,000, based on the money that we put into the units. It's strictly a financial decision. And we have put, over the years that we've been working on this, we've put almost $400,000 into the project. When we rebuilt the front building, we rebuilt it based on condo specs, because we knew we wanted to do it at that point. It met all the requirements, it met all your requirements for the condo, as far as there were no special exceptions. To the best of my knowledge, and you, Chana, could probably confirm this, I think Proctor's is the only ongoing condo conversion plan right now. I don't know of any others. And I know you told me last time I have the record for the longest running extensions in history. And
Correct.
yeah, I knew you'd say that. In the looking that I have done, and I'm sure you all somewhere have the memo. It was done in 2010. The City of Laconia Planning Board Extension Policy approved December 14, 2010. I just have my own copy of it. It says nothing in there in the amount of limiting extensions. And we felt that the easiest way to do this was to go for an extension each year, as far as your time involved to reviewing everything, us paying the $50 fee, originally it was $25, rather than try to continue to fight the one-year extension overall. So our first thought is, we really don't want the extension in there. We feel, even though it is a conditional approval, that we should be able to keep it open-ended. We are going to do it. I still to this day can't tell you when we can do it. I don't think the value is there, and to give it away at $100,000, we wouldn't do that. When we reviewed it back in before the October meeting, we did consider abandoning the project temporarily, as one of your former members had suggested, and that was not an option either. We need to keep it going. We want to keep it going. Last year we did a few small things. We did not do a lot of things towards the project's completion. The biggest thing is the market. I looked at the sales in Laconia between March 1st of last year and March 1st of this year, and on the condo conversion sales, there were only 19 sales. 6 of the 19 were on the lake, like Proctor's is. 13 out of the 19 included docks, which Proctor's does not. Only one was similar to Proctor's as far as the size of our average condo. No dock on the lake was at Luann's, and that sold for 15% below assessment. It was assessed at $226 and sold for $190. Bill?
But just a question on your assessment, which was $107,000. How does that compare to your appraisals that you have from your bank and all that? How does that compare to those?
We've never had the units individually, we never had it appraised.
So if you had it appraised, you wouldn't know if they're going to discount that on your financing and all that?
It'd probably be a little more, because some have sold in there. The ones that have sold have been bank foreclosures, and some of them sold for 79, 80,000. I know one sold for 125, so that is not that far off from what an
If it
appraisal.
was comped, would you know if your bank would discount it, or they would go with that number?
Say that again, please?
The appraisal, do they discount those appraisals?
Yeah, they discount, the foreclosures.
Discount them down
Yeah. they
by
can-
assessed value?
My
From
my
the
assumption,
appraised
what
value.
what I've heard, they can't use a foreclosure to determine a value on on the city value.
Right. But they do an appraisal, and then what they do is they'll discount that appraisal.
Yeah.
That's my question. That doesn't reflect that.
No, that's the cities, and you're right, that doesn't affect that. The ones that were, given away for 79, 80,000 at a foreclosure, I think one was 125 at a foreclosure, and in that particular situation, at Eastern Shore, they tore down 2 buildings and built 2, we call them the Twin Towers, because they're as ugly as sin, and they are assessed as new construction, they're not assessed as condo conversions, but all the little ones that were not improved. And even that particular one, before we bought it, was improved on the inside, whereas Proctor's, we've upgraded, but we haven't restored the cottages at Proctor's, so we're still running on, no insulation, pine paneling,
But you're running a business, you're still running it as Proctor's?
strictly as a business, yes. Yep, strictly as rentals. And we're one of the few that still does the full weekly rentals. We didn't go to the weekend rentals. And I went to Roach Realty website today to look and see how many condo conversions were on their website, and there were 11 conversions, and they range from, for sale, range from $59,900 up to $364,500. The 5 over 200,000 were all year-round houses, full houses, or totally renovated. The 2 between 100 and 200,000, they still haven't sold. The days on the market were 388 and 272, and the 4 under 100,000, 2 of them were 281 and 246 days on the market. So there just isn't a condo conversion market still in Laconia. You can tell from that the city thinks it's coming back a little bit, the assessor's office, because it went from 80-something up to 100 and something. So it's coming back, but it's not, and it's still 30-40% below what we thought when we started this project. Does anybody have any questions? That's kind of what I wanted to say. You have my...
Have the improvements that you've made to the facility, have they increased its value?
I think so. We have not had, we ended up talking with the assessor department, that they have not increased our value as far as the assessment, but it definitely has increased the value, because we've done a lot. The redoing of the front building, it used to be 8 tired old motel rooms with the louvered glass door, no insulations. We took it down to the bare studs, had it totally rebuilt, shrunk it down to 6 units, fully insulated, double sheetrock, fire code, taping, whatever they put in there. So it definitely has increased the value.
So you're self-funding this right now?
We paid it ourselves. Yeah, it's all fully paid for. We raised the rates a little bit, but we would not be able to recover.
But irrespective of your age, you're self-funding that infrastructure work, the work that you're doing, I should...
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no, but we would never, on a rental basis, be able to recover what we put into that building. And so we need that. We had to do that. That was the first step to going to condo, and to make it so it was. But the whole thing is the market. We still would love to see you consider us for no one-year extension. If you won't, we're going to ask for another one-year extension. And again, I apologize to your board for not having that meeting in October, as Warren had requested. We did get a hold of Shannon in February and start that other process. And we're not a big developer. We've never done this before. We're a small developer, and we're just trying to do the right thing. And I know Don and Warren have made comments, and Bill too, about the place looks nice, and we are definitely keeping it up.
So, let me ask a question.
Yes.
So what you would like is a conditional approval with no kind of review until you're ready to develop it or abandon it. Is that right?
Well, I don't really think there needs to be another review, because that's not in there. The only thing that hasn't been done is we haven't filed the condo docs with the state of New Hampshire. Once we do that, that could open the door to other problems. There's nothing more that you, the way I understand it, there's nothing more that you have to do on it. When you see we filed the condo docs, then you would remove that conditional approval. But we are, and the condo docs are written, you have seen them in the planning board, but just the Attorney General has not. And Rod has always said from day one, you don't want to file with the Attorney General until you're going to go, actually put the project in work, and because it's too costly to get things changed. So we have them written, we just haven't put them in, because again, it's money.
Why don't we hear from the staff, and it may give direction prior to asking the applicant more questions?
Sure.
Yep, so we did reach out to legal counsel after getting Rod's letter, and I apologize, just in the craziness of winding everything down, we just haven't formalized it. We've had informal conversations with legal counsel, and as we kind of went through our conversation, we realized that although I was speaking with a different attorney, I was speaking with Stephen Whitley at Mitchell Municipal Group, he was telling me the exact same things that Jay Whitelaw had told me in 2012. And I believe that memo is in your packet, and that was a formal memo. And basically, she is answering the exact same questions that Rod must have asked us in 2012. And basically what she's saying and what Stephen was saying informally was that the board has the right to request the applicant to come back on an annual basis to review the project. They disagree with Attorney Dyer that we don't have that right to do that. Both Jay and Stephen had said that. And in fact, Stephen even said it seems like an annual review is important because Rod is right, Attorney Dyer is right in saying that we cannot, under the condo law 356B, we cannot, the planning board cannot deny a condo conversion unless it has a reasonable basis for doing so. So a change in circumstances or regulation was what was pointed out. And we haven't had anything that's going to affect this condo conversion. If the applicant filed tomorrow, he would follow the same rules and regs and the review process as he did back in 2006. So we don't really have the basis to deny. But by having him come back every year and ask for that extension, it does give us the chance to look at it and see if those circumstances or regulations have changed. We've talked about for years putting in a municipal condo conversion regulation. We just haven't done that. We haven't really seen the need. But at some point we could. There could be new shoreline rules that could apply to this project, density requirements, anything like that. So I think, in that, there's no need for a new attorney letter because the one from 2012 from Jay Whitelaw really sums up the answers to the questions that are being asked again today. And our attorneys have recommended that we approve the extension once again, but that we do require that the applicant come back on an annual basis, request that extension. It's a one-page form. It's a simple $50 fee to give us that opportunity to review it each year.
And attorneys aren't required for that process.
Agreed. Yes,
So that's a one-year extension,
that's right.
which is what the letter, was what Jay
That's right.
Whitelaw's letter said.
That's right.
The attorney you spoke with today said for 1 year would work.
That's exactly right. The same thing. Yep.
Fred, what is the imposition on coming back next year?
I don't mind at all, to be very honest with you. Don't take this the wrong way, but I was a little offended 2 years ago by one of the board members told me that somebody else had withdrawn their comment, and he wanted to make sure that I would be man enough, if I abandoned the project, to come to you. And I'm man enough to come to you and say, I want to keep going on it. So I don't mind the extension. I don't, the doors are open for review. We will keep doing more to get it ready for the condo. We have a bunch of projects online for this year. Some are for the rental part,
Is
some are
part of it
long-term.
like the suspense that you're not sure are going to be approved the next time or extended?
The only things,
Part what's going on inside?
the only things we have to do are the electrical with meters going to each of the
Well,
cottages.
I mean, your internal mechanism.
The
your thinking,
anxiety
your
of getting the
feeling, your
extension.
emotion.
No, I don't like it.
You don't like it, okay.
I mean, I took my lorazepam before I came, so.
So it's not a very
But it's a
comfortable
friendly
thing to
friendly
do,
group, and
guess.
I know all the phases and all that, and I am who I am, and this is the project, and, I don't mind coming back, and I can continue to do it. If not, number one son.
Well, look at it this
well,
way.
given
Instead
you-
of coming monthly, it's only once a year.
I know, but it always comes up around tax time, so that's, it was two
Well, you
things.
should take great comfort in that our legal counsel, two attorneys in the law firm, have stated to us that unless there is substantial change
Yeah.
in our regulations, the state regulation, or in dramatic changes that you want to do physically on your site, there is no question that we will approve the extension.
Well, I didn't want to annoy the board by not having our October meeting, and I probably should have done something more formally than to, go with this approach. No, I don't mind coming back, on an annual basis.
I haven't been sitting here for a whole long time. There's a lot of people who've been sitting here a lot longer. So, and I've never encountered the issue about the reasonableness of a one-year extension. And I'm just curious, because that's been part of our procedures. We've been doing that regularly since I've been liaison from the council. So I guess my question is there any history or policy that we developed and in implementing this one-year extension? Have we ever had the issue questioned or?
So let me just clarify. So the input on this extension was specifically as it relates to the condominium law.
Okay.
So it doesn't necessarily apply to every project. The we should not deny unless clause. That said, we do have, as Fred alluded to, we do have an extension policy that we developed in 2010, 2011, because we didn't have criteria for granting extensions. And it's very similar to the condo law. It's a little more expansive, basically says something to the effect of, that we would grant the extension if rules and regs hadn't changed. That may affect that, but also it speaks to the development around the project so that we would have the right, if a project has not been built, yet what may have been forested land around it has been built and may have an effect on stormwater or traffic patterns or something like that, we would then also have the right not to grant that extension and have that applicant come back because circumstances, rules and laws may not have changed, but circumstances under which it has been designed have been changed. And I can get you copies of that policy. Or Brandy can tomorrow.
And also, we have wanted to have a discussion with each applicant that has a longer term project, to look at them and talk with them and find out, what's the circumstances, and rather than having things linger.
I'm not commenting on whether it's good policy or bad policy. It's just a custom and that we've been doing. I hadn't given much thought to it before tonight, so.
Well, over the terms of the senior members here and so forth, we have reviewed it many times and concluded it for Laconia and the applicant, it is a very good policy. And the filing fee, it's a $50 filing fee, and they don't need to be represented by high-priced lawyers in order to do it.
Shannon, would this project be impacted by Langley Cove in any way?
I don't think so. I think Langley Cove obviously is going to affect traffic patterns in the weirs. I don't.
Stormwater runoff, I would assume.
Yeah, I think this is far enough away. I think if the stormwater runoff would be impacted more from immediate abutters because it's going to empty right into Langley Brook, which will take it right into the bay. Traffic patterns are changed a little bit. I think this project is small enough, though, that its impact on those changing traffic patterns is negligible.
What happens if there's a change in ownership between now and the time the extent he comes back for an extension?
That's a good question. I think the decision runs with the land, so I think, we should be apprised of the new owner's information, but I'm not sure that it's going to affect our decision-making.
Yeah, our decisions always go with the land, not with the owner. So, given that this is not a public hearing, so we will not be asking for public input. Is there any other discussion?
You mentioned like 3 or 4 things: density, shoreline,
Yep.
stuff like that.
Yep.
Isn't he grandfathered
Um,
because it's approved?
well, so right now, he is grandfathered in that the state, in that we have no municipal regulations over it. The state has basically said, a municipality cannot prohibit condo conversion, but it can require,
Something.
yeah, it can require certain upgrades, it can require certain studies, that type of thing,
If we had the policy.
if we had the policy in place.
So if we enacted a policy,
That spoke to density, then we could have him do a density analysis, we could have him maybe...
so he wouldn't be grandfathered. So if something came up, until he signs that Mylar and gets that Attorney General letter.
That's right.
He has to do whatever the policy, if a policy came up.
That's right. Well,
You
what,
understand it that way, Fred?
Yeah, just so you know, there was an error in that letter. The Mylar is signed. I think Galena had done some research. The only thing that hasn't been done is the letter from the Attorney General. And that, I didn't rewrite it on there, but they did, do you remember Galena doing that a couple years ago? Okay, I have a note in here that says you did it, that you found the filings on the Mylar. So the only thing was the last point as far as the Attorney General letter.
so not only would the new changes need to take place, but then we would need to not grant the extension. So if the changes take place and he's not up for he's not expired yet, he can still record that Mylar in condo docs and get in under that deadline.
Yeah, so
But-
to the extension.
Yeah.
Okay.
But your point is, he's not protected either from those changes until he finalizes it by filing properly. Yep.
Thank you.
But in some sense, the extension protects him to some level.
For 12 months, yep.
Right.
For 12
So
months.
it protects you a little.
Yep.
I've always found the board very reasonable to deal with, so no, I don't mind coming back for another year. I felt bad that I couldn't give you what you wanted as far as a
And not
meeting.
only it's going to be an uncomfortable position, the market's not there, and you're trying to get something done, and you're frustrated. I mean, I feel you, okay? So I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, anybody, who-
I do think that the work that you did and the representation that you sought out, and then with the planning department's involvement with our city council, has brought this to a decision point, which we really wanted it to be.
okay.
And so that meets the intent and spirit of our desire to figure this thing out.
Okay.
And we, I think, have figured it out.
Okay, thank you.
Ready for a motion?
Yes, please.
Make a motion for application 06007 SU to grant the extension to April 4th of 2017.
Second, yeah.
Motion's been made, seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, raise their right hand. Is there any opposition? The motion passes unanimously, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
And in one way, we don't mind seeing you again next year, but we hope your plans are able to be executed prior to it.
I'm staying in the area, so I hope you see me next year if they
You're not
haven't got it
moving on, I
done.
get you.
Thank you very much.
And I'd like to confirm the fact that the physical work that you have done to your property has greatly enhanced the Weirs and the city as a whole. We appreciate it. The attention that you are paying to your spring and fall cleanups and all the maintenance.
Already we started.
Yeah, and then it was covered with snow. No, but it's very important to us. You're a very important member of the community, and you and your family, thank you very much for all the work that you are doing, Fred.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. That was the extension. I've already announced, we do need motions, though, to continue. Yes. The public hearing, application PL 2015-0138 SP 153 Church Street, NBL 426-44-6, proposal to demolish vacant building and add landscaping in its place. Prior to asking for a motion for the continuance, granting of the continuance, Shanna, would you like to make any comments about that?
No, I just want to say that we're continuing to work with the applicant on the project, and hopefully they'll be back before you in May.
And they have applied and have received a demolition permit,
That's correct.
and their status on that demolition process?
The demolition permit has been issued. My understanding is that they're pulling together a pre-construction meeting in the next couple weeks, and we'll be taking that building down. But before any more work happens on the site, they will be back before us.
Driving
Not a
by it
historical
today,
building,
there was work being done on the site.
It did go to the Heritage Commission. The Heritage Commission did make some comments. The Busy Corner sign will go to the Historical Society. The lamp post will be saved at the street. They're going to make an attempt to save the front step. But other than that, it will be demolished, yep.
It appeared that utility companies were out there digging up Ward 2, David, to discontinue the...
They did that without my permission?
Oh, I can't believe it.
Jeez.
Place is falling apart.
We
huh?
do need a motion to grant the continuance until the May 3rd, 2016 meeting.
So moved.
Motion's made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of granting the extension continuance? Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. The second, the continued public hearing, is application PL 2016-0015 SP Amendment, Provincial Road, Apple Ridge Apartments. Their request was for a waiver request for underground utilities, and they have requested an extension for 1 month while they prepare their submission to us. So, without any question, and is there a motion to grant that?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made, second. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, raise the right hand. Any opposed? The continuance is granted unanimously. Under the public hearing section, the application PL 2016-0016 SU, Provincial Road, MBL 482-160-1. It's a two-lot subdivision. Their request is also to continue until May. Could I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made, second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise their right hand. It is approved, and we approved that at 7:09, and we opened the continuance. See, now, if I did that digital clock, it would remind me. I'm supposed to say the times that we begin and close these things. The next under is application PL 2016-0029CR, it's 34 Country Drive, MBL 384-332-1. This is a conceptual review. And for the audience, what a conceptual review is that applicants come before the board and have a dialogue. In this case, the approval is not required, but the county is going through the process as a courtesy to abutters and the public. As you know, the way things work is that the federal government trumps the state trumps the city trumps the regulations, and so we're doing this, receiving this, and I think it's an excellent idea. And I would like to point out that under our zoning and table of uses, that any city project needs to come before the board also for a certificate of CIP.
Oh,
CUP.
yes.
Yes. But that and they do that consistently. So we would like to, we appreciate the presentation this evening and like to recognize the representatives of the county.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Leonard from North Point Engineering, and this is Anthony Mento from SMP.
Welcome.
I was going to have Anthony give a brief overview of the sort of the concept of what the jail's proposing, and then I'll overview the site and the site design.
Absolutely. Good evening, all. Thank you for having us. Shana, I just wanted to congratulate you, and we had the opportunity to work with you to develop the architectural design review guidelines, and it was a very enjoyable process, and I'm glad to hear tonight that the ordinance or the guidelines are being used and received, so it's nice to know that it's helpful for the community. So Anthony from SMP Architecture. The county hired us last year to help develop a conceptual design for the addition to the county complex, specifically the county jail. This new facility is going to be a low, secure facility. It will only house inmates that have kind of graduated into this program that helps to train, give drug, alcohol counseling, does work release opportunities, training for jobs, and then the reintegration of the inmates back into the general population. The program, the design of the facility is based on one that we did a few years, back in Sullivan County, and it's proven to reduce the recidivism rate in the county. Their numbers dropped from a high of 67% down to somewhere around 17%, which reduces the costs to the county and the impact of the community itself. So our facility, well, the existing jail, all the additions is here. The new facility is shown in gray. It's a single story with upper-level mechanical mezzanine, but all basically on one level. Easy access to the exterior, made with long-lasting, durable exterior materials, of which I can show you samples of. If there's any questions about the facility, ask, and
Where you state this is a single level, we always look into the future.
Yep.
And if there is need for additional facilities on this site, would you put a second story on that building, or would you extend it out onto the land available?
We would not put a second story onto this facility. It's going to be constructed mainly out of wood. There'll be a structural steel core for some of the higher roofs, but it's not engineered to have a second story. The jail complex itself was originally constructed in 1988, and there's a portion in this vicinity where you could extend the medium maximum security portion of the jail. So there's growth potential off of the northwest. However, our approach was to do a low-impact building that reduces the population, the a use of this facility by transferring inmates out. So I think it's going to reduce the population in the main jail and allow the facility to last longer without doing a very costly minimum or medium to maximum security facility.
So what would be the protocol for these inmates when they get there, and what are they allowed to do, and do they leave the facility, don't leave the facility? How does that work?
Given that's a programming question, I'm going to turn that over to the superintendent who's here with me this evening. He can speak about how the inmates will be treated, trained, and released.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Keith Graven, superintendent of the jail. So your question is, what are the inmates going to be doing during the day?
Not during the day, but what is your procedure, protocol? What are they going to be allowed to do, leave the facility? How does that work?
Right.
Or does it?
The inmates that we in this section of the facility, they'll be sentenced individuals, and they'll be assessed to be high risk for drug and alcohol misuse. And at the beginning of their time there, for about 3 months, there'll be intensive counseling and training. And once that 3-month period is over, they will go to a work release program. So they would go out in the community and work during the day, and then at night come back and sleep in the jail. And then eventually what we hope is they can get into electronic monitoring, where they will be living in the community, working, and able to make the transition back into their communities. So for the first 3 months, 7 days a week, education, training, drug and alcohol abuse counseling, things like that. So they'll be in the jail for those first 3 months. Some of the individuals that maybe don't have the substance abuse problems, they'll be working on the grounds like we have already today, working in the county home kitchen, the laundry, on our farm, garage crew, mowing lawn, shoveling snow, things like that.
So those people that will be in that 3 months program, which would be the ones that you really want to focus on to,
Yes, sir.
those people, you said will go to work. Where would they work?
Well, we currently have a work release program in the jail, and we have for many years. They work for various companies that hire inmate labor. I have a community corrections division at the jail, so they make arrangements with business owners in the community.
So they don't go out and try to find their own employment. You work with them, you get that lined up for them, I guess.
Some people come in and they already have a job. They have to spend a certain amount of time with us, and then a lot of times they're able to keep their jobs, but they would sleep in the jail at night. A lot of people need help finding employment. That's what we do. We try to help them find a job, get them back on their feet.
What's the average stay in the facility now?
Well, a lot of the people with the drug and alcohol issues, many of them are sentenced to 12 months. That's the longest I can hold somebody in a county facility. So what that means is they have to serve 2/3 of their time, which would be 8 months. And that's as long as they do all the things that we expect them to do, stay out of trouble. And in 8 months, they'd be leaving and going back to their communities. So right now, we're unable to do a lot of the things that we hope to do with this new building. Our space is extremely limited. We don't have space for training, classroom space for education. I don't have areas for counselors to come in and meet with these individuals. So with this new building, we'll have more spaces for that purpose. There'll be training rooms, clinicians that will come in. We'll contract with local providers, Genesis, Horizons Counseling. These are people we already do business with. They'll come in and they'll meet with the inmates, and we'll have more space to do those types of things. So right now, there's a lot of dead time. Inmates are sitting around with no place to go. This building will allow us to keep them busy for those first 3 months. They'll be in a classroom all the time, getting their high school education, getting drug and alcohol counseling, financial counseling, parenting counseling, relationships, all the things that we need to help improve their lives so when they do get out, they stay out.
What do you expect the inmate population for what I'll call the old facility to be reduced by once you bring this new facility online, so to speak? And does this plan address any of the structural problems of the old jail that we're all very much aware of?
Right. There's like a two-phase aspect to this project. The first phase is to build the new community corrections center, and that's going to be about 12 months, roughly. Once that's done, there's going to be some upgrades to the existing facility, HVAC improvements, some repurposing of spaces to allow us to have more space to do treatment for the pretrial offenders that still need to be held in the secure area of the jail, maximum and medium security inmates. So today, after the 1987 upgrade to the jail, functional design was for 87 beds in the jail. That was in 1987. Today I have about 120 beds, but we had to repurpose some spaces that really shouldn't be used to hold people, but we had to do things like that because our population just became so high. In 2012, for instance, our population made it up to like 135. So when you only have 120 beds, and we have 135 people in the jail, it's a problem. So we had to ship them out to another county, and that costs us money because they're not going to hold on to them just because they want to do me a favor. They're going to expect some compensation. So the last few months, our population generally has been in the 80s, but in 2015, our average daily population was about 103. So, we're bursting at the seams. We're going to lose about 40 beds when we build a new facility, but this will give us 64 beds. There'll be 44 for men and 20 for women in the new facility. So we'll have more beds available in total. There's a section of the jail that was built in 1890 that we're still using, and it's just time to close that down completely. I don't know if you've ever had a tour of the jail, and if you ever want one, let me know. I'll show you around. Yeah, 1890. So we're going to be closing those. That portion of the facility will just be shut down, and we won't put people in that area anymore. It would just be too costly to improve those areas to bring them up to modern standards. So
There's about 60-odd people in here, in that facility, 60-something?
64.
64 beds.
64, and then as they, now what feeds that? That feeds the other part of the system, feeds that, right? Now, what puts the, what slows that down? In other words, if you can't accommodate the new people coming in, how does that work? When do you have to accept someone? I guess that's the question I have.
Well, if the police department drives up today and brings someone in, I have to take them. If the court sentenced someone to a certain amount of time, I have to take them. If my population gets so high that I don't have any more room, I'll reach out to some of my fellow superintendents in other counties and ask them to hold some people for me.
So what feeds that is the courts and the police department,
Right, basically the
but
amount of people.
not the other facility, or the prison?
No,
Okay.
oh, yes.
They come out of the jail. Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Right, when someone is initially, when they come into the facility and they're sentenced and it looks like they're going to be a candidate for this new program, they'll be in the existing section of the jail for about 2 weeks, going through an assessment, drying out, getting weaned off drugs, getting medically cleared, and then they'll start the treatment program, that portion of their sentence. Some of the people will already be in jail. They could be pretrial, unable to leave because they can't make bail. And we could do pre-assessments on them in anticipation of their sentencing date. We're already doing that a little bit. We have a program that's called CORE, Corrections Opportunity for Recovery and Education, and we modeled that, like Anthony said, after Sullivan County's program. So they're going to start in the old jail and then eventually transition over to the new facility. And that's where the remainder of their time will be served in that portion of the facility.
Question, you talked about medium and maximum security in some parts of the jail.
Yes, sir.
Why would the courts put a medium or maximum security individual into a county jail rather than the state?
Right. That's a good question. Regardless of the crime, everybody starts in the county jail system. So let's talk about a murderer. He gets arrested tonight in Laconia, and he comes to jail. I'll take him. He'll be arraigned. The judge will set bail, and then the legal process begins. He is held in custody in lieu of bail. He can't make bail, I hold on to him. The more serious the crime, the more dangerous the individual would be a maximum security type individual. He'll be housed separately from the other inmates. And then medium security would be other people, pretrial offenders, different crimes, all kinds of different things. Generally, still can't make bail, not as dangerous as a maximum security inmate, but again, they have to be held in secure detention. Then we have sentenced inmates, generally minimum security inmates. They're doing 12 months or less. If they get sentenced to more than 12 months, then they go to state prison to serve their time. And that's the difference between the county facilities and the state prison system.
So every county facility will, at some point, hold some of the most dangerous criminals the state has.
Everybody begins in the county jail. Yes, sir.
What future upgrades, this is a stick-built,
It will be, yes, absolutely.
And I'm just thinking as future upgrading, seems like the jail population continues to rise, and putting, inmates into a stick-built facility. Where's your upgradability in this, project?
Well, for this portion of the building, this is what it's going to be,
Forever.
so we need to expand. The people that are going to be in this section of the building, they will be classified minimum security. Low risk to escape. It wouldn't be worth their time to try to escape. So no danger to the community. The reason they're there is to try to get help, to try to get treatment, to solve their drug and alcohol problems. If we have to expand the facility in the future, like Anthony said, there is a wing existing. We would go in the other direction and there would be expansion there. So, there's been talk for many years in Belknap County about either building a complete new facility, upgrading and expanding, and so here we are today, upgrading and expanding.
So organizations like Genesis would go to your facility. You wouldn't be
That's right.
sending them to their facility.
Right, they come into our facility today.
I don't understand it, but you're not sending them to Genesis or moving them out of your facility to those other groups.
No, we're going to have clinician spaces and
They
classrooms.
go to you
treatment rooms,
and
they will come to
then
us.
work with the individuals, okay.
That's right.
Fortunately, the size of their lot would allow for any type of plan that they came forward with.
Sadly, the inmate population in America has continued to grow, and what has kind of slowed that growth has been the community corrections model of trying to utilize the time that they're in custody to their benefit, to give them the skill sets needed that they may not have ever gotten. And so in California, Colorado, in New Hampshire, we're leading the way. And so we've sized this facility for the immediate need, but based on the staffing needs, the staffing counts, it will only be able to handle so many individuals. That's why we feel very comfortable with this size addition, and able to achieve it at a very low cost compared to the facility that the superintendent was talking about. However, if the need is still there in 10, 15, 20 years for housing more inmates, it will likely be on the medium to maximum side, and so that's when we would go to the northwest portion to grow.
Can you really build a correction facility, stick-build it with sheetrock and wooden studs and really expect it to last? I've seen the inside of most of the jails in the state, and they're pretty badly beat up. And they're concrete block and concrete and steel. Sheetrock?
It's not sheetrock, but it's a valid question. We have designed and will be building this facility with the expectations of constructing it like a college dorm facility that has equal kind of heavy abuse in use. So the wall systems are maybe wood stud, but everything is wrapped in plywood and then different layers. It may look like drywall, but it's not. It's a fiberglass reinforced material. There'll be coatings over the wallboard that will help protect it from scratches and gouges and everything. The exterior materials, which I can show you, are thick fiber cement panels. It's a line that we walk between making the most heavy-duty facility, but also a reasonably cost building. And the interesting thing, though, is that most of the individuals, and we found this at Sullivan County, that are in the program are thankful to be in it. They don't want to be in the jail. They're not criminals like you may think of. They messed up, they're there because of parole or drugs or alcohol. They don't want to be in a cell, and that's pretty oppressive. They want to be in this new facility, and so they don't abuse it. They actually are thankful they're there. If they do anything wrong, they scratch the wall, they punch the wall, they're gone. They're back to the cell. And so it's a carrot and stick thing. So 6 years later, the facility in Sullivan County looks like when they moved in. It's in phenomenal condition, and it's utilizing less costly materials, of which can be broken, and they can get out and they can leave if they so choose, but it hasn't proven that way.
If I could also, this isn't just a Department of Corrections building. We have meetings regularly with the county attorney, public defender's office, probation, parole, the courts, the judges, and we need this facility to help the people that have the drug and alcohol problems we all read about and see. So the individuals that will be sent to the jail, they will understand that they're being sent there to attend the core program. And that'll be explained to them before they sign their sentencing order. There's a negotiation process. Most people don't go to trial. Most of the cases are handled between the attorneys. The defendant agrees to the stipulations of their sentence, and if it's 12 months or less, they come into the county facility. If they are assessed to be in need of this treatment, that's where they'll go. If they're not, they'll be in the old existing portion of the jail. If they don't comply with the rules of the core program, they're back to the old jail. They'll get a setback and go back for a month, let's say. Our hope is they'll see and understand what we expect and will be better behaved in this new section, because they're there for treatment. In the old jail, there's a lot of dead time. They sit in cells, they're locked down for great periods of time, because frankly, I just don't have any clear cells to put them. I don't have a classroom. I don't have clinician spaces. So unfortunately, they sit around with a lot of dead time, talking to other offenders. And so what do? They talk about their crimes, and they're not getting any treatment and education. This will allow us to do that.
Which elevation is the elevation you see from the road? From,
So this is the south elevation. So when you drive into the complex, this will be the front entry.
and if you're on the road, you could see it from the road? Yeah.
However, from the road, this east elevation will be the most prominent
that
as you
okay.
drive right by. This is kind of parallel with County Road.
That's right.
Okay.
No, I'm really looking at
North Main.
North
you.
Main. Is that what?
Yes,
Except
North Main.
North Main, okay.
I just want to say that this is the direction that correctional facilities and courts should be taking with respect to how we deal with our drug and alcohol problems, our repeat offenders. That a lot of states around the country are starting to get it in terms of how they approach sentencing and sentencing options and what you can actually do for those folks sentenced. So I want to applaud the county and you for coming up with this alternative that I think makes our county a better place and something where we can do something productive about folks who have problems that they need to address. So, thank you.
Jerry?
Randy, I'm wondering, your lighting, would it meet the city standards, or because of a correctional facility, would it not meet the city standards? I don't think it's going to matter, I guess, because in the north, you've got the commercial properties, which probably wouldn't be a problem, and across the street is the church. I'm just curious if it...
So sheet 7, if I can find it, that they submitted, does show their lighting analysis.
Yeah, I'm just curious, does it meet your...
Yeah, so there's no spillover onto neighboring properties. You know, it will be,
So you don't need anything special for a correctional facility?
It's all full cutoff, normal lighting that you'd expect
Okay.
for a scale of this type of site.
yeah, I mean, it won't be residential scale, you know, like a single-family house has a little light,
Right.
but there's no from the study, there's no spillover onto other properties. You'll be able to see it, but it won't be shining in anyone's.
We do have building-mounted lighting at the entries and egress, and then also to illuminate the yard. But again, they're cut off, they're controlled, and they don't have a large wash. As you'll hear when Kevin begins, we are adding a new access road in.
Yep.
What the building committee and the chair asked was to reduce some of the light poles closest to North Main Street to maintain the illumination of County Drive as the prominent entry for the public, and this be a secondary access mainly for staff, personnel, and deliveries.
That was my next
only.
question. If the local police department was bringing someone up, would they be going in the main entrance?
They would be going in our new driveway.
Oh, they're going in the, so everything's gonna be going in the new driveway now?
Public entry will always be
Yeah.
here, but staff and then police would come through the back, rip around. We have a new Sally Port,
Okay.
so they'd come through the Sally Port into the old facility, and then out.
Okay.
Deliveries to the nursing home. But Kevin, you can.
Yeah.
I'm jumping in doing his job.
Okay.
And what do you have here?
I just
Materials?
brought some materials, granite materials and fiber cement panels. It's an American-made product that is 18-inch by 10 feet long cement board. Very durable. It already comes pre-finished, so the delegation, or not the delegation, the building committee has picked a series of materials that are represented in the elevation there.
And will that same material be used inside?
It may be utilized sparingly, but mainly it's an exterior product, but it may come around into the lobby section. Some of the granite, we're anticipating bringing that in as well. So if there's no more questions about the building or the program, I guess Kevin will talk about the site plan.
Please.
So I just wanted to, everyone's probably pretty familiar with North Main Street and County Drive as it comes in today. Circulation today is right through here and around the building, out to the back of the nursing home. With the introduction of that new addition there on the east side of the building, we're sort of cutting off that traffic. And one of the complaints about this existing orientation of the driveway is that it didn't provide clear direction to the public that are coming to visit the jail versus inmate transports and police transports and that type of thing. So the idea of having two different driveways really allows you to have a public entrance, which is already a public entrance to the sheriff's office and nursing home, and now it sort of serves as a primary front door, so to speak, for anyone coming to the jail to see a loved one or conduct some sort of business that they might need to do. We are going to be reconstructing County Drive. It's a pretty tough shape, so we're basically going to do a full depth reconstruction right up through here and over to about this point. That's the last renovation that occurred down in this neck of the woods. They redid that section of the parking lot, so it'll sort of help tie in some of the grounds that are in rough shape. We're also going to reconstruct the sheriff's parking lot, which also is in tough shape. I want to actually plan just because to see the details. So we've got 11 parking spaces here on the front, 2 of which are handicapped. We're reconstructing the sheriff's lot. We basically provide the same number of spaces, just clean them up and repave the surfaces. We'll have that new access drive coming through the back. We're basically reworking some of these existing spaces and adding a few in through there for administrative access. This part of the building is staff and administration within the facility, and the women's wing is on this side and the men's wing is on this side. Again, the public access being here at the entry. Landscaping, we're looking to put some landscaping kind of here on this edge for a couple reasons. One, we wanted to try to dress up the approach of the facility a little bit. We also wanted to discourage people that might be parking in the parking lot from coming up to windows that are within the existing facility. So it helps sort of create a buffer there a little bit. We're also proposing some street trees on North Main Street, you'll see there, just outside the right-of-way. Again, to just try to improve the appearance of the site. There will be some new drainage systems going in, collecting water off the parking lots here and here, and basically plumbing them to a new stormwater management basin here on the north end of the site. Touched upon lighting briefly. We are proposing some new light poles in and around the back of the facility and up here in the front, and then around the building at doorways, but not lighting this section of the drive. Again, like Anthony said, to try to funnel people, the public, to this county drive access and leave this for staff, police, and deliveries to the back end of the remaining facilities to the south.
Is it a fair statement to say that all the inmates on their work release would be going out the main entrance on County Drive, and no one would be using that back road?
Work release inmates, they'll be living in that new community center, so they'll be leaving through the front lobby.
So they'd be going out Main County Drive?
Yes, sir.
Because a lot of them probably have bikes, right?
No.
I know in Concord, a lot of the halfway house and stuff like that, it's usually their bikes.
We have work release inmates today. I think I had about 10 right now leaving the jail. A lot of them get picked up. Their employer sometimes picks them up. Some of them take a taxi to their jobs.
Yeah.
A couple have worked close to downtown and were able to walk, but they leave out the main entrance to the facility.
Well, there isn't any sidewalks along that road there, so I'd hate to see them coming out the new driveway. It's just farther for them to walk without a sidewalk.
Right. It's unusual for someone to walk. I mean, we've had a few very...
Well, you see them leaving every Saturday morning or so.
Those are the people that just spent the night being released.
So there's a lot of people walking.
Yes, sir.
We see them.
Parking in behind you, is that for the employees?
Right here?
Yeah.
Yes. That's an existing parking lot that's there today. And that'll be the roundabout for the police to go into the Sallyport also.
So how many more employees would you be putting on site?
I had approval this year for 2, 2016. Next year, I'm going to be asking for 4 additional.
Additional, from what you have now?
Yes, sir. On top of, we're going to be contracting out for clinicians and the professionals that will need to come in to provide treatment for the inmates also.
Right.
So.
And where would they be parking, out back there or out front?
No, they'll be parked out front.
Out there, okay.
Yep, right in this area. And, this isn't very far away, that main parking lot for the county. They could walk, there's a walkway that they could use.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm new to the area pretty much. This is a co-ed jail,
Yes, sir.
and it's attached to a nursing home.
It is.
Okay.
But
It's a first for me, I just,
We have secure doors. We'll just head over to the
I
nursing
was
home.
like, okay, co-ed jail, it's attached to a
Right,
nursing
the
home.
county complex, yeah, this is the nursing home area here.
Okay.
And there's an admin wing, and then this is a wing for the sheriff's department. This is, from here over is the county jail facility. So yes, we are physically attached to the county home.
And I've driven by it numerous times, I just haven't made that turn in.
It's sprawling.
I just keep going.
A lot of the county facilities are situated on old farms,
Yeah.
which is wonderful, but they tend to kind of grow out like this, and this one certainly has.
The county elected officials have their headquarters there too, don't they?
Yes, sir, the admin wing is over here. Now, they have a room such as this to have their commissioners' meetings and the county delegation.
That's convenient. There's a monitoring well I see on the site plan. What's that for?
It's a good question. The monitoring well was, I spoke to the facilities manager at the county facility, and he said that was put there at a past time associated with the removal of underground tank that has been removed and basically proven to be, my understanding is it's proven to be basically a clean, and it's an unused monitoring well at this point.
How long ago was that tank removed, do you know offhand?
I'm sorry?
How many years ago was that tank removed?
I couldn't answer that question. Could
We
you?
believe it to be when they were doing the most recent 1988 edition.
88.
Yeah. And at that time, the monitoring well went in to confirm that the ground was clear at that time.
Can I ask Paul a question since he's in the audience? Has it ever come up in conversations about doing a sidewalk from County Drive down and connecting over by Blueberry Lane? Or is it like way out and never?
If other than just general conversation, there has not been any extended beyond Blueberry. Because on the other side of the road, it goes up to Old North Main Street.
Right, it's just tough to cross.
Yep, again, not saying it wouldn't be one that,
Is there anything they can offer you, maybe? You know, while they're doing all this construction? I know they don't want to put sidewalks in, but I don't know if you've ever talked to them or looked at, you know, from the drive down, if there's anything they can offer?
the only real involvement in this round with Kevin Leonard here of North Point is we talked about the driveway itself coming off of the highway and what jurisdiction we have and what state DOT jurisdiction is. But, you know, right or wrong, we did not get into looking at this as something where we ought to try to... our sidewalk long-term plans, to be honest with you, are not well established. We have certain areas of the city where we know we want to extend them. So I guess the answer to your question, no, we just didn't go into that nitty-gritty. We only talked about the driveway access and...
Even if there's anything you can do, you know, from the drive, as far as your property line goes, even with a gravel path or something like that, it might be well, you know, well taken with your people that are leaving the facility. It's a pretty busy road.
Down towards Blueberry Lane.
Well, they only go to the property line, it's a short distance.
Yeah, I know, but what about that, from that road down to Blueberry? Is that a long distance, or is it a short?
Pretty long, you go by the house, the apartment buildings, and the pond.
Yeah.
That's that far up, okay.
Yeah. Just for the record, the comments were for Paul Monahan, the City of Laconia Director of Public Works. We appreciate you being here, Paul. Why don't we move to the comments of the staff, and that may generate more questions.
So the folks from the county came in and met with us for a TRC meeting, which is what most normal applicants do. We were very grateful for their time and their input. We had some discussions about some pretty typical plan changes or questions we may have had about the change about drainage or some of the wetlands issues and things like that. If this was a typical application, we would recommend that the planning board approve it with the conditions listed on our staff review on page 3. Some erosion control notes, things about, you know, coordinating with waterworks and the fire department, which they've already started talking with fire department, code department. They've had some meetings. So they've been very open with information and open to our suggested revisions or changes. It's really been a very cooperative and educational process.
Excellent. Mr. Monahan, since you are here, do you have any guidance for the planning board on this project?
I'm actually here for the next item, but I guess just to acknowledge that, you know, they did inquire with us, because we have jurisdiction up to Lexington Drive. That's in the city compact area, and we take care of that highway. And we did, just for the board's assurance, we did check with state DOT, because there were originally some state funds expended on that roadway back in the 50s. And even though it's in our jurisdiction, we wanted to be sure that granting this driveway that they're requesting would not fall back into any issues. And DOT came back, having run it up the ladder there, that they're supportive. They feel that the addition of a driveway there, with the traffic loading on that highway and all, they saw no reason for us not to approve it. So then they threw it back into our court. And we'll end up seeing the final design when Kevin brings it later on in the process. So we were supportive of the request for a new driveway.
Thank you very much, sir.
Brandy, a question. I see that the new driveway is going to go past the wetlands.
It is encroaching on a wetland boundary.
Boundary.
That is, so we have a 50-foot wetland buffer setback here in the city. So if this was a normal application, they would be required to submit for a CUP approval from the planning board.
But I see also, too, that they have a alteration of terrain and a wetlands permit they need to get from DES.
That's through the state.
Right,
Yep.
do they enforce that and ensure compliance, or do they ask you to inspect for them?
No, we, in any project, that is a state responsibility.
Okay.
We always make it a condition of our approval that they get any and all state permits as required, but we do sometimes see things and report to them, but it's never our job to
Oh, so there's no
actually go
agreement with
out.
DES for you all to do any inspections for them?
No. Nope.
Like an urban compact or something?
No.
No.
Not that I'm aware of, or yet.
Any further questions at this time? Well, then, what I would like to do is ask for a motion to grant a conditional approval with the following criteria, and please do note that the following criteria...
I'm sorry, Warren, did you want to close the public hearing or ask for comments or anything like that?
That's a very good idea. Thank you. You did that very nicely, too.
Thank you.
We're going to get along just fine.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah. Yes, Paul.
I just had one other thing. I just want to...
No, it's not an official approval. It'll just be kind of a,
Right.
yeah.
Informal.
Yep.
I just want to be clear on one other item, excuse me, Kevin.
No problem.
With regard to it, some members of the board may recall, going back about 12 or more years, there was another request for a driveway on a portion of this roadway, on this section of roadway on the other side, having to do with the church that's established there. And the long story short of that is that at that point in time, the city and state took the position that they would not approve a driveway based on certain limitations that went back to the funding for that project many years ago. But in the 12 to 13 years since that took place, this is a new request and a new time in history, and we did want to show respect for that reality last time, so we ran it back through DOT, and they have come back to say that their position at this point in time is that there's no reason. So I guess I just wanted you to be aware of that in case, in discussion with others, you hear, gee, the city denied a driveway there, how come they're letting... it's in that same, within a few hundred feet, and it was on the other side. That was then, and this is now. And I just wanted to have that clear in case any question came up.
Oh, thank you very much for your thoroughness. Are there any abutters that would like to address the board on this application? Are there any taxpayers of the city of Laconia that would like to address the board on this application? Seeing none, then I will close the public hearing at 7:55. Thank you very much.
And please just note that any vote you take is advisory. Thank you.
But we should have a vote for a condition of, for a conditional approval?
Advisory condition.
Advisory. Yeah, I would like that, because by doing that, then we enter into the record the recommendations of the staff departments of the city for guidance and for documentation. So given that, is there a motion to grant a conditional approval to the county for this application?
Yeah, I will. Subject to application PL 2016-0032SU, which is the address 34
County Drive.
County Drive. Move that we issue a conditional approval, subject to number one, project completion deadlines, plan review May 3rd, 2016, site improvement security June 7, 2016, or before work, start of work, or whichever is sooner. Mylar final plans June 7th, 2016, completion April 4th, 2017. Number two, number 3A, number 4A through F. Do I have that right?
4, 5, and 6. In an advisory capacity. I just want to keep things on display.
Yes. And the motion is for this conceptual,
Second that with the addition of the wording in an advisory capacity.
Okay, thank you.
motion's been made, seconded.
I'd like to revise the application number of PL 2016-0029CR.
We would?
It was a different
Oh,
one.
yes, okay.
Oh, okay,
That's correct,
okay.
incorrect. So the application correction is PL 2016-0029CR.
Excellent, thank you very much. Thank you. I thought we had to start all over again. Okay. Given a motion's been made, seconded, if there's no discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? No, there is none. Then the conditional, the conceptual plan review we approve with a conditional use permit. And Superintendent Gray, if you could communicate, if you would, please, communicate to the commissioners and to the delegation. We know that our representative, Frank Tilton, who used to be our DPW director, is the chair of that group now. The tremendous work that you all have put into it. And we have been, I'm sure everyone in the area has been following all of this over the many, many years. And for you to bring this, you representing the administration, the commissioners, and the delegation is tremendous. And we have a responsibility for the architecture of projects within the city. And the road that you're on there is extremely important to us. And just up the road is the site of the current state-owned property, which if most probably, and it depends upon our city council and the state, will be acquiring for development. And so the architecture that you're proposing here fits very, very well. And your sensitivity for landscaping so that people traveling on this road will be impressed with your facility. And it appears, as Councilor Bounds had said, you're balancing very, very well the physical needs of the county with the great concern for people. We need to be concerned with people to return them to active, productive lives. And so please, our compliments, our thanks. It's a tremendous amount of work, and we look forward to your open house. And if we can be of any assistance, please, please come with us. Thank you very much.
Took you 3 months to get out of there.
Yeah, we have to be careful about going in there. Outstanding. Okay, the next, which Mr. Monahan is for here, is its application PL 2016-0032SU, 92, 108, 120 Frank Bean, and 432 Providence, MBL 476-351-1, 2, 3, and 477-1, 47-2, boundary line adjustment between the city and private lots. This is a public hearing, correct? Then I will first ask if the staff represents that this application is complete, ready for the planning board. It is.
Yes.
And could I have a motion to accept this application, please?
So moved.
Motion's made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those raise their right hand in favor. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Then we can begin the process. And this is a public hearing, which I will open, how convenient, at 8 o'clock. And we'll first then call on the applicant, which is our own director of DPW.
Right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, we're here today. The city is looking to do this boundary line adjustment on Frank Bean Road as part of a project that the city is under order by state DES for remedial action in an area where there was a burn dump that was operated on private property but served the general public in the era of 1920 to 1950 approximately. And In the process of how this came to the attention of the state, and they subsequently ordered the city to study the area and make a plan to remediate, because it was proven that the burn dump material there does not have much cover over it. The city was negotiating with the butters, and the 3 lots, actually 4 lots, a small, tiny lot in the midst of 3 others. The city has purchased those lots over the last year and a half from private property owners, and we're here today because we are scheduled to cap those areas. All the buildings now have been removed on that side of the road. This is the left-hand side as you go up Frank Bean Road, which is the west side, opposite Reed Auto Wrecking. And there's one property on the other side of the road that actually fronts on Moran Road, the Joyle property, that will also be part of the remediation action. But back to the purpose, we're here today is for the boundary line adjustment and lot merger between the city and Delphus Gilbert Trust. Brian Gilbert, representing the Gilberts, is here. We've been talking with him about how we would like to adjust the property line a little bit, because when we bring 2 feet of clean fill onto these lots to cover the burn material that's not far from the surface, we have to taper off onto Brian's property, and there are some, we talked through how the final grading would be and what would benefit Brian and what would benefit us. So we're both here, Brian and the city. We've asked and given authority to Mike Bemis of Steve Smith and Associates, who is the licensed land surveyor who did the work, and he's here to present the boundary line adjustment details to the board.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes. Welcome back.
Thanks. Thank you. My name is Michael Bemis from Steve Smith and Associates, and we put together the plan. We had surveyed what is now the Delphus Gilbert Trust property some years ago, 2004, before it was sold from the city to Gilbert. And now, the adjustment that we're planning to, or proposing here, is between 2 landowners, city property, which is made up of 3 parcels, and the Gilbert property. And the city property, they purchased 3 parcels. There's property here that was formerly owned by a Willie family. This property here was owned by Dolphin Point, which was a company that had a business there. And then there was a house lot here owned by a family named Paquin. And the city has purchased all 3 of those lots for this project that Paul mentioned. And the plan is to reconfigure the line between the city and Gilbert, which is to the west there, to provide an access point, which right now, the Gilbert property is all of this, includes this strip between 2 of the lots that the city owns and this land out back. And what we're proposing to do is eliminate this strip, and this yellow area is what Gilbert is going to be conveying to the city, and the blue area is a portion of the former Paquin lot that the city owns now that would go to Gilbert. So they're cutting off their existing access point here, but providing one up here. So that's the benefit the Gilbert property will derive from this swap. And the city will get this room out here to do the grading Paul was talking about, and also will gain title to this land, which would allow them to merge all of these properties together into one piece. So the 2 areas, this parcel A that's blue, and the yellow area are the same amount of land area, so it's an equal land swap, so neither landowner will be gaining or losing any land area. The area of those 2 parcels is each 7,592 square feet.
Is that grading going to be like a swale back there? Between the Gilbert property and the city property, along the backside there? I know you're grading it down onto their property, but is that going to be a swale of some sort?
The way I understood the grading plan, this is relatively even grade through here. I mean, and they're going to be raising the grade at least a couple of feet to cover material, and then they're tapering it back. So there may be, depending on the grade of the land back here, there might be a minor one.
A slight swale.
Very slight, very minimal. The idea, initially, was talking about getting an easement onto the Gilbert land, but the way the land areas worked out, it made sense just to purchase it, and then all the fill would be on city land rather than having an easement.
What did we do to look at the burnt-out area? What was underneath it? Anything, any diggings? Did you dig anything out?
Were you asking what did we do to determine what was
Underneath it, yeah. I mean,
there's been consultants working with us for about 4 years now, and it even goes back, another 5 or 6 years when the state and EPA was involved. And they've done borings, several borings. They put in wells. They've been checking all the neighbors' water. But the borings, the soil borings, definitely indicated that to depths as great as 20, 25 feet deep is burned material from that long era when dumps were open burning and people went up there and dumped and burned, and it was run by, I believe, a man named Moran, Moran Road. And that's, so to answer your question, all investigation has taken place, if I'm on the right track with your question. And and as I say, the property on the other side of the road where Joyle is, Frank Bean Road didn't exist until 1963-ish when the bypass was built. Laconia Bypass was built, and it cut off Cotton Hill Road, which is now on Laconia, and it's Hounslow Ave. And when they built Frank Bean Road, the state did, as an alternative, so people could get up onto Cotton Hill. And so prior to that, there was only Moran Road, and you would drive up Moran Road, and the dump was on the left-hand side. So if you went up Moran Road today, the first property you come to is Joyle, and then it stops, the road dead ends. But if you just go ahead a little bit further, it merges, the corridor merges with the new Frank Bean Road, and you got the other 3 properties.
There's the borings, 25 feet down, nothing was found.
Oh, no, there was found. They found...
All the way down 25 feet?
Yeah, or at least.
Was there any contaminant, any carcinogenics, anything down below?
No, it wasn't of that nature. I'd have to get our consultant to give you more details on that, but the state essentially was concerned. They don't expect us to do any more investigation there because this is what they call a pre-1981 landfill in the world of state solid waste management. Any landfills that existed prior to 1981, like those that went way back in history, there was a certain set of rules which aren't as strict for closing as those that were post-1981, like Laconia's landfill up off Route 11B by the Guilford Town line. That was post-1981. The closure of that landfill, which we did in the 90s, early 90s, was major. We had to strip down to the level of the trash. We had to put a liner over it, and then we had, meaning an impermeable liner, and then we had to put fill, and we have to maintain it and cut it all the time.
This is capping a couple of feet of...
Couple of feet of clean fill.
And then you're going to
and then
seed
we'll seed, loam and seed it, and we'll take care of it. It'll be ours, and there's going to be what they call an AUR, activity use restriction, on the property forever.
So more ball fields?
Could be more ball fields, or there's more potential that could be done. It's just that it would, if you're going to be digging down into that material, there would be special requirements with anything that's taken out of there that could be contaminated as to how you have to dispose of it. But the plan is right now it'll be land that is not used for any purpose. There was some discussion about public works down the road. Maybe putting some gravel material and things in there as a storage yard, but that hasn't been affirmed yet. But it won't be any building, and it won't be intended for activity, normal residential activity.
You mentioned the wells. What was that all about?
I think just to check the contamination, if there is any, in groundwater down below. And as I say, those results, I'm not conversant on them here tonight. We could get you more info on that, but the state...
Would that fall back to the 81 standard, or back in the day, or...?
No, it wouldn't, because the facility operated pre-81.
Right.
So the rules associated with that are not as in-depth and strict as they are post-81. But I don't mean that to say that I know there's serious contaminants, but
I guess my real question is, the pre-81 rules might be less stringent as far as the water in the wells, right?
yeah, that's what I think I'm getting at. is,
Okay.
All they're requiring of us right now is 2 feet of clean fill. One little distinction is on the Joyle property. His preference is, he wants us to pave a large area in front of his property, so we're going to dig it down 1 foot, put in clean gravel, and pave it. That's just a specific thing. He did not want to sell his property. The other 3 did, so, but it's just basically that upper 1 to 2 feet is what we're going to be dealing with.
The wells were on the abutters, is that where those were?
There was wells actually installed, for the purposes of investigating the groundwater.
Right, okay.
As part of this whole process of investigation that's taken place over the last half dozen years.
Right. But it goes back to the 81 standard.
As I say, it was pre-81 operation, so those are the rules that we're under, yes.
Thank you.
Okay? Yep.
Any other comments?
The last thing I wanted to mention is that the only thing that we have left to do from a surveying standpoint is, assuming you approve this tonight, would be to monument the new boundary line.
And that would be normally our condition in here. Excellent, thank you. Staff?
The proposal is pretty straightforward. The boundary line adjustment, as you can see, will kind of tighten things up, so, I think DPW's plan is to make that all 1 lot instead of 3 separate lots that are kind of divided. So we recommend approval. There are no plan revisions that are required, and then just the standard conditions of approval, which do include the monumentation.
Excellent. Thank you. Are there any abutters to this application that would like to speak? Yes, come forward, please. Welcome.
Hi. My name is Sherry Reed, and I live right across the street from there, Reed's Auto Wrecking. And he did mention about putting a stipulation not to let anybody dig or anything, and then he said if somebody does dig, they'd have to have special handling. But I think it should be put on there forever. I mean, when Dolphin Point dug and put a foundation in there, the stench was so bad that it would make you sick to your stomach going outside. And they had crows picking up the stuff, carrying it all over the place, dropping it all over the neighborhood. And I ended up getting cancer. I don't know if that's why, but I've never drank, I've never smoked, I eat pretty healthy. And I ended up, and I just hate to see 20 years, 50 years from now, somebody, like if Brian Gilbert decides to sell, I don't believe Brian would ever dig, but in the future, if he ever decides to sell, somebody might, and I may not be there 50 years from now, I'm sure I won't, but the next person who is there just shouldn't have to deal with that. And any digging up at all, it should be a stipulation put on there forever. I just think that's an important thing to do before the land swap is done, that if it's sold in the future, it's put on there, it'll never be dug into.
Would the staff care to comment on that?
Do that?
I'm sure that's something that's covered in the
Yeah, it's part of
the
DES.
use agreement.
Yeah, the activity and use restriction, I think, is the method that government uses to limit activity on a site like this, so I think the chances of anyone digging there, being allowed to dig, are very slim. I just mentioned that I didn't want to say it would absolutely be out of the question. For instance, if Brian sometime wanted to run a water or sewer line, if the city ever extended sewer up Frank Bean Road, and we wanted to run a service up there, he may be allowed to dig into that area, as long as, if anything that was exposed, he'd probably have to have a consultant, somebody overseeing the excavation, and anything that was removed that was questionable would have to be disposed of at an appropriate facility. But there would be no intention to dig here.
Would that come back to this board, if that was the case?
Yes. It would go back to the board, yep.
So is there something that we can note and bring forward if someone just wanted to dig it up, or they want to put a sewer line in?
I think
That information could be, this lady's information and Paul's information could be brought back to the board and they could hear it again?
I think the larger overseeing agency is going to be DES. With DES involved, I don't think anything's going to happen there without them knowing, and I think they'll probably be checking on a regular basis. So I think that's really, the bigger the agency that will cover your concern, is that DS is now involved, and they've got requirements on it.
Shannon, one thing I don't know if I said, it will be a part of the deed. The deed will clearly indicate that the AUR exists on all these properties, so even if it changed hands down the road, again, which is probably not likely, it would be clearly followed in the deed.
Excellent.
As long as it is, that's
Thank
all
you very
my
much.
concern is. I just, like I said, even if I'm not there, somebody in the future shouldn't have to deal with what we've dealt with.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much for expressing your concern. Yes, sir.
My name is Billy Reed. I'm from Reed's Auto Wrecking. I own 89 and 113, right across the street from the site. This all started in 2003. I was in front of this planning board begging for them not to let this guy dig this up. They told me I was crazy, I didn't know what I was talking about, everything I said was unfounded and not true. So please, we don't want this dug back up again, no matter what. I have 2 wells. I have one within 100 feet of this, and I have another well on the other side, back of my yard, that it's operated near these dumps. So far, they've tested pretty good. And I'd like to keep my wells. I don't want city water up there. And this dump was closed in 1954, this burning dump. It jumped across the street behind my home, and it's all raw garbage. So that's the situation we have up there. So my whole front lawn is burned up, and it's all got to be cleaned up. And this should have never happened in 2003. I begged the planning board and pleaded with them not to let this guy dig this up. I just don't want it disturbed ever again. Is there a way that we can, if someone comes before the planning board for some kind of approval that requires excavation, can we not assume that DES has been informed? And can we put a note in the file to make sure that DES is informed?
On these properties?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the file will clearly show, the information from tonight's meeting, the fact that there was a boundary line adjustment, the purpose of it, and all that.
And we'd be reviewing that, we'd be digging back into that file if somebody brought forth an application?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely, yep.
Okay.
And for these 2 abutters, we appreciate you coming forward, making the comments, because the recording of this meeting will be documented, not only on the public television, but also in the minutes of the meeting. And so your comments were very good, and they'll be part of the official record.
Getting back to Ham's point, if they can't do anything, if DES says they can do something, that doesn't mean they can go ahead and do it. It still has to come here.
Right,
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
yep.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Monahan.
Yeah, and I don't mean to belabor it, but I think I just want to make one thing clear. I spoke mostly that it's fill. That's the intent on the left-hand side or the west side of the road. There is, on the Joyle property, we're going to actually be digging material out and transferring it to the other side of the road before we put in the clean fill, because we're going to, on Joyle, since his property he's still going to live there, we're matching grade.
This is this gentleman here?
No, let's see, Mr. Joyle is not here, I don't think. No. So I guess I want the board to understand, I didn't mean to represent, there will be excavation during the capping project that's going to take place. We hope, we're going out to bid here in mid-April, with a start around mid-May as our target, and there'll be a 6-week project to do all of this excavation and removal of material from one side of the road to the other, or from Joyle's side to the other side, then the putting in of the clean fill, and capping, and then seeding. That's going to be about a 6 to 8 week project.
And what about the digging? How long, what's the duration on that?
The digging will be in that area of...
6 weeks or less than that?
Yeah, it'd be in a 6 to 8 week period.
6 to 8 weeks.
Again, the larger portion is not going to be dug. It's only going to be, the material from the Joyle side of the road will be brought over and spread out, and then 2 feet of clean fill will go on top of that. So no excavation on that side of the road, just transferring of material and putting new material. On the Joyle side, and a little sliver in front of the Reeds, which I fully respect and appreciate their concern, there is a small portion there that we're still talking with the state about how we have to handle that, because there is some burn material in that area. I didn't mean to get into this nitty-gritties with you folks, but I'm glad to. And that is still being worked out right now, but if there's excavation in front of the Reed property, Sherry and Bill, who are here tonight, it will be intended that any material taken out of there, just like with Joyle, will be brought across the road and will return it to its existing grade with clean fill. And we've talked to Bill about that. And there's a particular area of hedges that they have some concerns about. We're trying to work that through with them. So I guess I just want the board to know, I didn't want you to think there'd be no digging. And I think we're close to full agreement with the abutters, Joyle, Reed, and certainly Brian Gilbert, and again, the other owners, we bought their property. So I hope that's clear.
Thank you. Are there any other taxpayers in Laconia that would like to address the board on this application? Seeing none, then I will close the public hearing at 8:22 and open it for board discussion or a motion.
I move that we approve application number PL 2016-0032SU, boundary line adjustment between the City of Laconia, Delphus Art Gilbert Trust on Frank Bean Road. As conditions, 1A, plan revision May 3rd, 2016. B, site improvement security June 7th, 2016, or before the start of work, whichever is sooner. C, Mylar final plans June 7th, 2016, and completion date of April 4th, 2017. Is that the right date?
It is.
Okay.
We had much discussion about it.
Number 2, plan revisions, none. 3A, 4A through F inclusive. I think I got it.
I think you got it, sir. Is there a second to this motion?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, raise their right hand. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And thank you, Paul, for coming. The next, there's no application acceptance for this evening, no new business. Under 9, old business. This is a discussion of the addition of back language under the Wetlands and Water Quality Ordinance, Chapter 235-17-E from the Conservation Commission. There will be no vote needed, as this is a discussion between the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board. Any action resulting from this discussion will be at a further meeting. Now, since there has been a preliminary discussion several months ago, the Conservation Commission and Dean Anson, the chairman, has put together a presentation, and he did have a request that he could flow his presentation prior to questions being asked. But at the end of that time, then the general discussion will take place. So I would like to recognize the chairman of our Conservation Commission, Mr. Dean Anson.
Thank you. And also, our vice chairman, Deb Williams, is here. And Scott McPhee and Shauna put together a lot of this information. I want to thank them for doing that. As you recall, in between year 2000 and 2012, there was a 30-foot wetland buffer that included the intermittent and perennial streams in the city. And in October of 2012, recommendation was made by the Conservation Commission to increase the buffer to 75 feet, but in the process of doing that, the intermittent and perennial streams were eliminated from the regulation. So there's no wetland buffer that applies to those water bodies now. The Conservation Commission feels strongly that we should have such a buffer to protect not only the water quality, but to protect structures that are built adjacent to it, to these streams. The last time we were here in the fall, I think it was October, but in the fall, questions were raised by the board, and we've gone back and researched answers to those questions, and we have delayed making a presentation until all the board members were back from their holidays. So, as Warren said, we'd like to, let me just go through this quick presentation, and then if you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them. So, thank you for entertaining us again tonight. As Warren said, we're looking to make a change to the zoning ordinance, section 235-17E, and what we would like to do is put a 30-foot buffer along intermittent and perennial streams, and I'll define those in a second. So this is the change that was made back in October of 2012, and you can see the public waters and public rivers were crossed out, and Mayor Seymour signed and approved that. So that's what we want to put back in. We want to put back in that 30-foot buffer because we feel that it's, putting it back would be consistent with our wetland CUP permit requirements, where we ask landowners to minimize the environmental impacts of their work on their properties so that they don't impact water quality and they don't impact, we don't have a potential impact in the future on their structures. So this is, Scott has taken some pictures of some buildings showing where there have been impacts because there was no buffer in place. And we've seen this also on some streams that have been identified as having a buffer of 75 feet, but there have been impacts. So here's what we've done. We've gone back and we've looked at not only planning documents, environmental documents, and engineering documents. We've put all those pieces of information together so that we can come up with a recommendation of 30 feet, and we'll show you the justification that we've come up with for that 30 feet. And it's not just to protect water quality, but it's also to protect the habitats on the sides of the these intermittent and perennial streams, and it's also, as I said, to protect the structures that are there. So here's definitions of the intermittent and perennial streams. The major difference between these two, the intermittent is a stream that will flow during the winter and the spring, and the main source of water for that stream is stormwater runoff. A perennial stream, on the other hand, is a water body that would be more of a year-round water body, and the source of water for that would be from the groundwater. So there are two different types of streams, and they may or may not flow all year round. The intermittent, as I said, is mostly from stormwater, but these streams So here's what we're trying to do is, one of the questions that was asked last time was, how can somebody identify what a perennial or intermittent stream is? So what we did is we went to the USGS quad sheets, and they have different symbols for each of these types of streams. So that a landowner can, when we get applications, the applicant will typically give us a copy of a USGS quad sheet that shows where their property is, so that we can understand in the larger picture where we're talking about. So we're asking for that 30-foot buffer, and the 30-foot buffer would be from the top of the stream bank to the top of the stream bank. So that the width, okay, so that the width is going to be 60 feet, and I'll show you that in a slide in a minute. And the reason we've chose 30 is actually based on a couple of different pieces of information. One's based on the logic of somebody who was doing construction and using heavy equipment like a backhoe. They are going to take up 10 feet of that space, just because of the size of the backhoe. The other is that when we get back to the environmental part, you'll see that the recommendation is to have that 30-foot buffer. So one of the questions that came up was how many building permits were denied because of the 30-foot buffer that was there between 2000 and 2012. And the answer is 0. So none were denied. So the process does work. It does work. So we work with the applicant to adjust their plan so that they don't impact that 30-foot buffer. But none were denied.
Well, empirically, I mean, that number means nothing to me.
Can we
Let
hold
me just
your
finish,
question?
David, please. Okay, so how
Sir.
many were approved? 122. Improved. So we get these applications, and we look at them, and we make recommendations of how the applicant can improve their application. Okay, so here's what we're talking about. We're talking about a 30-foot buffer from the top of the stream bank to the top of the stream bank. I mean, to the center of the stream. So from the top of the stream bank to the center of the stream on one side, center of the stream, top of the stream bank on the other side. Okay, so why would we do that? Well, there are a few reasons why we would do it. One is these streams flow into other streams that do have a buffer requirement because they're larger rivers, such as Durkee Brook or Jewett Brook or Langley Brook. So that's one reason. The second reason is when you look at the types of vegetation that grow in that 30-foot buffer, that type of vegetation is important to maintaining the stream banks so that they don't get eroded away. Plus, they provide habitat for animals and plants, and it's been scientifically documented that a 30-foot buffer is important. One of the things that's also been documented is that trees that are larger trees will have a root system that is about 1.25 to 1.5 times the size of the diameter of the tree. So if the tree is 10 inches in diameter, the root system is 15 feet in diameter. So we want to preserve those, because if we don't preserve those root systems, there's a chance that the trees could be, could blow down. So this is just to illustrate the point that I just made. So where would we have such streams? So this is the northeastern part of this city. And you can see that there's a small stream that starts over on the left-hand side, that's brown, and wends its way along and goes over Scenic Drive and goes into that water body, that lake there, pond. And the pond is protected, but the rest of the water body is not. Right, so all those little streams that come into it, that form that pond, help form that pond, are not protected. So why is that significant? Why is it significant that we don't protect those little streams, but we protect the larger ones? Well, the smaller streams can contribute sediments, nitrogen, phosphorus. They can be important for wildlife, supplying food for different types of wildlife along the route of that stream. So if we're going to try to preserve the water quality of those larger streams and larger water bodies where we have a buffer, we need to preserve the water quality of these smaller streams, these perennial and intermittent streams. So we now have a situation where an applicant can come in and can use the USGS quad sheets and can find which streams, if there are any streams, on their property. And then when they come and they talk to us with their application, we can work with them to preserve the stream and its water quality. So, point I made before is that if we're going to preserve, if we're going to have buffers for larger streams, but not for the smaller ones, the smaller ones are going to contribute to the water quality of those larger ones, and we'll wind up with poor water quality. And you know that all the water that comes off the land surrounding Paugus Bay is a source of our drinking water. Okay, so here's a more of a scientific planning investigation that shows if you are going to try to protect water quality, then you need a buffer of 16 to 98 feet. Stream stabilization. So you can see each one of these has a recommended buffer, and we're kind of taking the smallest buffer as in 30 feet. And here's Langley Brook. You can see that there are a lot of smaller streams that contribute to the water quality of Langley Cove, and yeah, there may be wetlands attached to those, like Langley. Here's Langley Brook right here, and I've walked this, and there's a pond up here that's been formed because the beavers have built a dam, and there are 6 or 8 intermittent or perennial streams that flow into that make this pond, and then that water flows into Paugus Bay. So that's the presentation, and if you have any questions, I would be glad to try to answer them.
Mr. Barnes, you've been very patient.
You know, I'm not opposed to the 30-foot buffer. because I have to think it through in terms of what value it will be for purposes that you suggested. But my point, I guess, that I was making is that some of the observations that you make don't make any sense to me in an empirical way. I mean, for example, what I commented on, that there have been 0 applications denied. That doesn't mean anything to me. What it means is you've had applications come before you between 2000 and 2012, and you've used the buffer to work with the developer in whatever area, assuming that you did, to get the result that says your application was granted after we worked through this 30-foot buffer with you. It doesn't answer empirically for me what effect this 30-foot buffer would have on future applicants and developing. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to do. I haven't thought it through. But some of the examples you give, like whether you can use a bulldozer there, I mean, I don't know what that means, except you shouldn't use a bulldozer there anyway. But do you understand what I'm saying?
No.
Okay?
I think I can clarify the bulldozer. Sorry, I've been sick. The bulldozer question. The whole idea behind the bulldozer is many times a developer will build right up to the 30-foot buffer, and there's foundation work. So technically, that 30-foot buffer is reduced by the width of the bulldozer because he needs to get back around the foundation to work on the foundation. So there's impacts within that buffer.
So the bulldozer is intruding on the 30-foot buffer.
So he can't get around the backside, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, no, you can't. I mean, that's something.
The machine is
that's a
causing
given.
damage to
That's
the
a given.
ground.
And I understand, but I mean, so how does he get to where he wants to go to do the work?
He
That's
can.
That's what he does.
He can.
That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying.
You're saying you can't, because he got the 30-foot buffer now.
No, he's saying that they do.
no.
No,
No, he's saying if there wasn't a buffer there, he'd be practically driving it in the stream.
Yeah, in other words, right now, if you had a 30-foot buffer, you're still going to have to get to the back of that foundation.
Right.
So you're in that 30-foot buffer no matter what. So they call that a temporary impact. So you're temporarily impacting part of that wetland with that big piece of equipment, 10 feet, approximately 10 feet or so.
That you
So
can do.
if you were
That you
to,
can do.
if you were to reduce that buffer by quite a bit more, and you're closer to the stream, and heavy equipment would be around the back of that foundation and working around it, then you see how a smaller buffer would also be impacted, and you'd be closer to the stream. So having the 30-foot buffer is technically almost a 20-foot buffer, because you're going to have work
Well,
behind it.
but the thing is that if you can go into temporarily the 30-foot buffer,
Yeah.
how far into the 30-foot buffer can you go?
Well, you...
20 feet? 25 feet?
Well, it's a temporary impact, and
Okay.
they do approve temporary impacts within buffers.
So this is similar to wetland, like, so we have the 50-foot wetland buffer right now. So what Scott's explaining is, I'm trying to think of one we've seen recently, but in order to do the construction, they ask for a CUP from the planning board to temporarily enter that wetland buffer and impact it to do construction equipment or maybe put the utility or whatever it might be. And then after the project is done, that wetland area is replanted or restored or whatever it might be and not touched again. It's a temporary impact versus I want to build a house and it's going to permanently have a corner of it in this 50-foot buffer. That's a permanent impact. Either way, the planning board grants a CUP for that. So with this 30-foot buffer, what Scott's explaining is that on the site plan, right, you've got your 30-foot buffer shown, and the house will go right up along that 30-foot buffer line. So it's not impacting the buffer, the house itself, but they have to ask for a CUP in order to put their construction equipment in the buffer to actually do the
If
construction.
someone wants to put a deck in, they're not going to have equipment, they're going to go whole, and they're going to put a piece of concrete in the ground to support their deck.
Yeah.
That
So
positive-
Absolutely true.
So they can't do it, they can't, you know.
As long as it's not in the buffer, they
They're
can
in
do
the-
it.
Yeah, they could be, they can't get that, they can't go into the buffer.
No,
So
that's
then
not,
they ask for a
that's not,
build in the buffer.
that's not what we're
Can't
saying.
build
That's
in
not
the
what we're
buffer.
saying.
Explain to me.
Let me
because
just finish.
Well-
What we're saying is that if you want to put a structure within that 30-foot buffer, you need to get permission to do it, and it comes in a CUP.
Right now, we have
So,
no
if-
30-foot
say a
buffer.
So right
homeowner-
now-
Let me say something, right? You're shutting me down here. So someone who wants to just put a deck on their house is gonna go and get a CUP through
They do
the-
now.
Yes,
They
which
do
we
now.
just
Or do they,
saw.
or do they get a building permit to do it?
50-foot
We
wetland
just
buffer.
saw,
Wait a minute, do they get a building permit to do it?
you get both. We just saw, I don't know if you recall Davis Place, I don't remember if it was the fall or the summer. They put a deck on the side of their house, and that was in the 50-foot buffer of.
They come before us all the time.
What stream is that?
That's 50 foot, that's.
That's
Now
Jewish,
we're talking-
that was
now we're talking
75, but that's a
another
special
level,
overlay
right?
No, we're talking
Okay,
about a different thing.
I'll give you
But can we-
perfect-
Wait, can we step back? Can you explain, back in 2003, did we don't have a buffer now at all for perennial stream?
Right, in 2012, the amendments that were made, can you show that slide real quick?
He doesn't show, I saw it.
Deleted it by accident.
So it was an accident. So we had a buffer in 2003.
That's correct.
Of how much? 30 feet?
30 feet.
Okay, and then with whatever happened in 2003,
2012.
they made a mistake.
In 2012.
Or whatever,
No,
and they deleted
I
it.
think we decided at the time, Jerry, that we were
We
gonna
wouldn't
go.
have taken a buffer off a
name
stream.
streams.
No, we would-
What we
Name streams you went
assumed,
to.
what we assumed was that by removing the words public water and public rivers, that there would be, in all cases, a wetland associated with those public waters and public rivers, and therefore the wetland buffer would take over. What we realized after the fact, that these intermittent streams exist that have flowage, but don't necessarily have wetland characteristics. And so things are being built in these areas. Can you please show slide number 1 or 2? Buildings are being built in these areas, and this is hard to see, let me turn off the lights, where during storm events, these intermittent streams are overflowing, causing property damage because we haven't reviewed them. So you can see here a structure that is now sitting in the middle of an intermittent stream because we've allowed this to happen. And so what we'd like to do is put that 30-foot buffer back so that we can prevent this from happening and at least talk to those people, let them know, hey, there's some intermittent flow here, you may want to move your building. We
Well,
will grant the
we don't even have
CUP.
a buffer on our perennial stream, which is constant water flow.
We do. We
I thought it
do.
said we didn't.
No, we
On
don't.
certain ones.
Okay, here's what we have. We have named streams where we have buffers.
Correct. Named and lettered.
Well, this says intermittent, this one says intermittent streams and perennial streams.
Right.
Is that what you're asking for a buffer on tonight?
Yes.
So, yes, anything that doesn't have a name or a letter, if you look at the zoning map.
So Turkey Brook is a named stream.
Correct. So that has the buffer that
Right.
exists.
But there's other streams out there with constant water flow.
That's right.
To me, it makes.
That are perennial.
I mean, that's easier to see than a wetland. Wetland, I mean, it's hard to tell what a wetland is, especially if you're looking at just poorly drained soils. I mean, the stream is a stream. I mean, if there's water in it, there's water in it.
Well, but it's not though, and that's the difference between the perennial and intermittent. There are streams called perennial streams that have water flow 12 months a year, 365 days.
Right.
But there are these intermittent streams that basically carry snow melt and stormwater flow that may dry up in July, August, June, July, August, September, October, and that's our building season. And they're hard to see, and they also need some sort of protection so that people are not building in them or close to them because they will flood in the wet
Is the
areas.
surveyor going to be able to tell that?
Is this picture?
Yes.
Is this picture an actual, when is this from? The one that you showed us before, from the very front page?
That is actually Langley Brook overflowing.
Okay.
One of the streams that flows into Langley Brook through the campground, Tilton's campground, vintage, what was that, 2013 or so?
Has this ever happened before, while there was a buffer? I mean,
I do not know.
I think, you know what I think, David? I think that part of this is, I mean, we've seen that we've gotten really heavy downflow of downpours. And when this happened, there was a heavy downpour.
Yep.
So what we're trying to do, we're not trying to prevent somebody from building.
Right.
That's not what we're trying to do.
That's why we have the CUP.
What we want to do is we want to help guide them so that they don't so they don't have this kind of a problem. And secondly, so that the water quality of Paugus Bay remains good quality. That's all we're trying to do. We're not trying to penalize anyone. We're only trying to work with them so that they understand what, what the potential ramifications are, and to guide them. That's all we're trying to do.
What would be your guidance, though, if someone has to go in the 30-foot area?
I'm sorry?
How would you assist them?
Same way we do with CUPs.
Well, I want to hear what he's going to say.
No,
I'll tell you exactly. I wanted to put an addition on a house that I owned. It was 50 feet from the wetland. It was within the 50-foot wetland. I had to get a CUP. And it was only to put the foundations in. Okay, and what I had to do was I had to make sure that I had erosion control. I had to make sure that I replanted so that I didn't, in the future, there was no erosion that was going to take place. So I wasn't prevented from building. I had to go through the process to get a permit and to have Shanna and her staff say, these are the things that you could do, and I agreed to do those things. So it wasn't like I was prevented from building.
But you could have been.
I'm sorry?
But you could have been.
If I said I'm not going to do those things, then I could have been prevented.
But I think that's why we showed that.
That's why we showed this.
I have to leave.
That
I'm
number.
right behind you, okay.
Regarding the number of permits, because we've never prevented. I mean, in all the CUPs that have come before us, none of them have been denied. We've always worked with that property owner.
There's usually a CUP on every application we
Well,
see.
I thought for this
wetlands.
time we were going to get to the information that we were going to gather and understand. I said, I think after all this time, I was on the impression that the information that we were gathering, or you were gathering, I guess, would to tell us how many streams are out there, where they are, the numbers and quantities and location.
To ask us to identify the number of streams would be an inordinate amount of work.
So we could have...
Wait a minute, let me finish. Let me finish. What we did instead is we went to the USGS quad sheets, which everybody has access to, because they're online. Everybody has access to them. There is a key that says intermittent
I'm not talking
stream.
about them, I'm talking about us. You want me to do that? Do you want me to go to that key and key it all in?
Yeah,
You do?
yeah.
I think we're confused.
I don't understand what's wrong with that.
All he's asking
We're
for-
saying is an applicant comes in and says, this is what I want to do. And we say,
I'm not an applicant, I'm on the board. We're assessing the impact of what you want to do.
okay,
So you want me to assess that impact? I'll do that.
no, I'm
All
not,
right,
I'm
then
not asking you to
that's
do
what I
that.
thought you guys were going to do. You were going to come back and say, there's 1,000 streams out there.
No.
Well, just wait a minute. This is what we asked for. You weren't here. 1,000 streams out there, and this is the impact of the
No,
area.
that's what we hire engineers, that's what the applicant hire engineers for.
Right.
That's what
They have to
US
define the wetlands.
USGS quad maps, they
Yeah, they
have those.
I
define
know, but what, we're trying to make a decision on something
No,
based on...
we're trying to add a buffer to a stream, that's all we're trying to do.
Yeah,
And we're
we're
trying to
not,
understand the impact of it, Jerry.
Yeah,
you-
no different than a buffer in a
I-
wetland.
I think that,
122.
So, Bill, can I just answer that real quick? So, I talked with these guys after the last meeting, and Scott, not only does he look at the ordinances and has been working on this as far as a rewrite, he's out checking construction sites, he's looking at every single dock permit, he's looking at all the CUPs, he's looking at all the planning board. So the amount of time that it would have taken him to document every single intermittent perennial stream, to me, did not seem like an efficient use of his time. So we thought we would bring in a sampling instead to show you what kind of, how, what these look like across the city, so that you could kind of, rather than look and document every single one, we thought it would be better to bring in kind of a sampling, so you could kind of think about the rest of the city and what it may look
So
like.
you're sampling. Sampling
Yes.
is done on a quantitative basis, analysis basis. So what is your sampling based on what you took?
So we
Just look
brought
at-
the two areas with the maps, the Langley Brook area, and then the area up in the northern end of the city.
Scenic.
well, off of Watson and Endicott North.
My
to show
world of
you-
sampling, okay, is if you had a bucket of whatever, bolts, and you wanted to approve or accept that bucket of bolts, you have a representative sample, which is mathematically known. You take that out, whether it be 100 or 1,000, and you inspect them, and you say, okay, those million bolts are approved, based on the sampling that we've done. But it's based on a number that you know that you're working with. In other words, you can't have a sampling against one, or one against a million. There's got to be a representative value
Bill,
to
let's-
the
So wait,
sampling.
can I answer that, please? So I think if the planning board feels that there is a value in getting a full assessment of these perennial and intermittent streams, we can certainly work with you to come up with a budget, to get a scientist to come in and do the type of sampling that you're looking at and get you the information that you need. But it is not something that my staff
Okay,
can
but I
do
thought,
right
I
at
thought
the
one of the
moment.
things we asked for, and I thought it's what we wanted.
Okay, so what we did instead, Bill, is instead of going out and counting every single one, we're going to give you a map. And the map is going to be based on aerial photography, it's going to be based on scientific, geological, engineering data that will show every single stream. So we're not going out and counting them and you saying, well, wait a minute, you missed 7 of them over here. We're giving you a diagram that says, here are all of them.
Okay.
Okay?
And how many is that, would that mean?
It doesn't make any difference. It
It's not a
doesn't make any...
numerical thing. It's not a numerical.
I don't
Can I
understand
say
why you're
something
hung
real
up
quick?
on that number. Why do you want a number?
Because I'm
Hold on one
Let's
second.
have a new person.
The quantification of this is not important.
Right,
Because
exactly.
It's the
just like you
concept.
get, the whole point of planning is really just to look at this and say, is this the right thing to do on this property? And let's think about it intelligently. I think the most compelling part of the argument was protecting bodies of water that you've already agreed to protect. It's like building a bulletproof vest that only protects your heart, but nothing else. So,
If we want to build a house, we have to check for wetlands, we have to
You should.
check for vernal pools, we have to check for this, we have to check for that. We just made a mistake back in 2003, and we took off the buffers for the intermittent streams and
And
perennial
if,
streams.
and
This
if
is
somebody does
situational.
come in for approval,
Yeah.
and there's a stream on the property, you need an individual judgment of that particular stream for that particular job.
Correct.
You can't just give a broad law to something. You have to individually judge these things.
And it's not that we're going to automatically grant it or automatically deny it. We're going to look at it and find out what he's doing and make sure, he or she, and make sure that they are protecting it to the greatest extent possible before issuing the permit.
I think its numbers too are telling you that this city is not using these as a weapon, or you'd see denials of permits. I mean, the whole point of this is to work with the applicants, and that is really, I mean, from everything that I've heard on this board, it's all about that. You just complimented the city planner for creating an atmosphere for this, and I think that one number proves it. And that's why it was a compelling number, because it's showing that, no, we didn't just deny this, you're acting as a planning board and doing the right thing with it.
And first of all, you have to agree that having good drinking water in Paugus Bay far exceeds in importance anybody's deck or back structure or whatever they want to do. That, you have to judge everything from that standard.
But how many CUPs have we ever denied? I can't remember any.
Yeah, I mean, that number was
Zero.
was 5
No,
years
no, I'm
ago.
just talking, not even your stuff, I'm just talking CUPs in general. I don't recall a CUP that, I mean, by the time it comes to us, you know, we ask for this, we ask for that, but it's pretty much the applicant
Right.
gets what he wants.
Right.
But you want him to stay out of the streams, out of the wetlands, you want him to, you know.
Or if he has
have
to
an-
put a
temporary
footing in or
impact
something,
in the
you do
buffer,
it
but.
right.
I remember one about 7 years ago, Valley Street, an applicant, an individual wanted to put a single-family residence right in the middle of a wetland, and we worked with, and there were other places on that property that he could put his house. We denied that. He did recite it and put the house in. So I can remember one that we actually said no, because he would not work with us.
What was that?
No, we didn't necessarily say no, we worked with him to
What was
put
that?
it,
in a different location.
Probably 7 or 8 years ago.
So
it wasn't denied.
No, I remember.
It was
No,
not
no.
denied.
5 years in a row.
Yeah.
And we do see people who come
was not
in
denied.
fairly regularly. You know, we pull up their plot plan and we see that there are things that they need to work around. So they may not even see you for a CUP because we advise them right at the counter to move this a little bit and. you'll
It's
be
very
fine.
cooperative. What will be the next step in this process to fix this error that was created?
We will draft the amendment, which is going to look very much like slide number 3 or 4, 1, 2, 3, and basically put those words back in. We would post it under a legal notice, have a public hearing, and then make a recommendation to the city council, who most likely will also post it and have a public hearing and vote to either approve or deny.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other comments?
I was just going to ask how much they charge to help people get around this stuff.
What do you mean?
To look at the property when they are about to build on a stream.
That's part
It's
of
all
our job.
but, yeah.
Part of the
exactly.
issue. That's my point.
Well, one of the
You're here to
things
help
that
these
prompted
people.
this too is, I'm driving down the street on Scenic Road, I see brown water, I see brown water going towards the lake, I see stream channels that aren't protected and things like that. I get concerned, you know, and I say, well, if we just had a 30-foot buffer, because we have that tree radius, that you got the drip line of a tree and things, some mature vegetation on steep slopes, so critical. But if we allow people to go too close to those items, then you have to rebuild something that's not natural, something that you can't rebuild in a lot of cases. So that's where the concerns. We have a lot of topography, we have a lot of bad soils in Laconia, and we have to protect what we can protect.
I don't think we've had anybody, I've been on the Conservation Commission for, 10 years, and I don't think anybody has come with an application that we made a recommendation that they do certain things that said, we're just not going to do it. We're not going to do it. They try to work with us, whether it was the man over by the traffic circle in the Weirs. He wanted to put a road in, and it was around wetlands, and we asked him if he could move the road a little bit here and a little bit there, and he said fine. And so I think that people appreciate what we're trying to do. We're not trying to stop development. We're just trying to make sure our drinking water is good quality, and we're just trying to protect people so that they don't have a situation where their foundation is undermined. We're not.
And many times, you'll have an intermittent stream that's close to a wetland, you're gonna have to hire that wetland scientist anyways to find out if you have a 50-foot buffer. And this just kind of closes that little gap in there. So if you have a little bit of a wetland, a little bit of a stream that's coming off, then at least they can determine
Thank you.
what's what.
Thank you very much. I would recommend if you could bring that forward so that it's not a long period of time because of, keep the presentation fresh.
Yep, I think we can bring it for the next meeting.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Easy for you to say.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Thank you very much, Scott, and thank you very much, Deb, back there. Appreciate it a lot.
That was a lot of work, I know.
Yes.
And you took a lot of time, you gave it a lot of thought, you involved a lot of resources.
Additional research details, put them in here. So.
Okay. Okay, then, moving forward, we'll go into reports, Planning Department reports.
Yep, I just want to pass this around. I passed this around to the Master Plan Advisory Team, too. I just want to pass one to each of you. It was a letter to the editor or opinion article that was in the newspaper, just talking about the future direction of Laconia and where we want to go. And it feeds beautifully into what I want to report out on with the master plan. So we are more than halfway done with our master plan. We have a final draft economics chapter. I have 3 copies here. It's, I think, close to 50 pages. Master Plan Advisory Team folks took them expeditiously, if that's the right word. Those that are computer savvy agreed to look at it online, and we emailed them copies. I have the 3 here. If anyone wants a paper copy to review, let me know. You can just raise your hand. I'll pass it around. We are looking for as much input as possible on that final draft. We also have a final draft natural resources chapter we've brought to the Conservation Commission. We've gotten their input on. We are 3/4 of the way through a transportation chapter and about 90% done with the land use chapter. Those 4 chapters are going to move forward to a public information summit in May that Brandy will be working to put on the 23rd. The location is yet to be determined, but for folks that remember the New Hampshire Listens Community Forum that we had at the Belknap Mill in October of 2014, it's going to be very similar, except at that point we were asking people, let's start this master plan process. How do you reimagine Laconia? How do we want to move forward? We've been asking that question for several months now, over a year. We now have these 4 chapters. We'll be bringing those chapters back to the public and saying, okay, this is what you've told us. This is how you wanted economic development, transportation, natural resources, and land use to move forward in Laconia over the next year. Did we get it right? Are these action items that the city can accomplish? And who is it in the community that can start accomplishing these goals, objectives, and action items that we've laid out? And that will be the community conversation to finalize those 4 chapters and kind of close the book on that piece of the master plan. The next chapters that we have left to get done are housing and historical and cultural resources, and then community and facility services. And those chapters work, historical and cultural services and housing will work very closely together. Brandy has the background in
Historic preservation.
Historic preservation. I always forget the preservation word. So that's really her strength, and we'll really be able to move forward with those chapters and get that done, leaving the master plan, to be complete in probably another 6 to 9 months. So we're very much on that road to completion. Please mark your calendar for the May 23rd, 24th?
23rd or 24th.
Event.
Depends on where we can get space.
We will probably have that finalized by the next meeting, if not beforehand.
Absolutely.
The other thing I just wanted to mention is that the search for the planning director is still open. It's been extended to April 8th, which is this Friday. So please pass the word. We're looking for applicants, and good luck, you guys, with your search. I don't know if you had anything to add, or...
I will be stepping up and performing as interim director starting tomorrow morning at 8:30. Shanna is still our fearless leader until after we adjourn tonight. If you guys have any questions as things go forward, or issues or anything like that, please come to me. Have some patience as well, and please be willing to share your experience and guidance with me and the rest of the staff.
I just want to say, Shauna, I remember when you first came aboard, back in the day, and you'd give presentations with your daughter standing beside you. So, I mean, and I
Who is now in college.
No, imagine that? Okay. So I think about those days, and I think about time going by, and how well you've done from starting here and where you're leaving now. But I don't think you should be sad on anything, because you really did a great job.
Thank you.
It's going
I
to be
appreciate
hard
that.
for someone, and Brandy, whoever's behind you, it's going to be very difficult for them to do what you've done.
Thank you. It's been a complete pleasure. It's a difficult...
There are times that it wasn't, I'm sure.
Very few and far between.
But you listen, that's the important thing.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely, yep.
Then moving on to liaison reports, the Planning Commission, we had a commissioners meeting on Monday, the 28th, and it was really, I thought it was really, really good, and Mike, you were there. And we had the New Hampshire Federal Administration Administrator explaining the new program from the federal government, and then we had the new Commissioner, Victoria Sheehan, of the New Hampshire Department of Transportation. And it is very, there's going to be a burst of activity, and really, it's going to come. Just quickly, the federal government now has a program where a municipality can borrow money from them for approved projects like Route 93 at a 1% amount, and that you only have to pay that 1% until about 5 years out. That is the point that you begin paying back the principal. The first 5 years, because the 4.5 cent gas tax increase was approved, That money is designated between state projects and municipal projects. So that money will flood in the first 5 years, and the first of the 5 years has begun. And so we'll have the money that's being borrowed at the 1% charging away at like 93 project, and we'll have this 4.5 cents charging away here for 5 years. Then at the 5-year point, when we need to start paying back the principal on this, on what we have borrowed at the 1%, that 4.5 cents will switch over and fund the principal payments. At that time, then, there'll be a thought process of the municipalities are going to say, hey, what's happened to my money that you've been sending to me? And that's a political process that will have to be addressed at that time. But because of that, in this period of time, there is going to be a substantial improvement. But as the commissioner was pointing out, with the number of roads and the conditions that they're in, and the number of bridges that we have to be repaired, both state-owned and municipal-owned, no matter, they are substantially increasing the bridge program repair, but the bridges are getting older every single year. And the number coming on the red list is greater than what can be knocked off the red list. And it's strictly because of the age of our infrastructure and the fact that there were many years prior to this, in the recent past, that all monies were cut out for any kind of maintenance. And when you don't maintain your roads and bridges, they deteriorate. But I thought it was extremely encouraging. I thought the new commissioner had a grasp. She's only been in there 5 months, a tremendous grasp of the state, of the needs, and is addressing it. I thought it was excellent.
I had, just as a fill-in on that, I had opportunity to get a demonstration of the GIS system that DOT uses to maintain their asset inventory. I was shocked. I was shocked at how much detail they have about the condition of their assets, their stream crossings, their guardrails, their road signs, their ADA traffic lights. They have all that stuff, and everything has been assessed for its condition. And then they've got an algorithm that ranks it so that they know if they can plan 10 years into the future, just as they do, what they need to address based on its condition. And whether or not they do it is really a political issue, because the executive councilors all jockey for their towns, their areas to get the money, so they aren't able to use the money in a prioritized way. But very, very sophisticated. I was impressed.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for attending that meeting also. Conservation Commission, any?
I usually have a report, and I don't. I think they were so busy pulling together the information for tonight, so
Well, they did an excellent job in doing that. Thank you. City Council's left. Just a couple things from our perspective here. I had an opportunity last Saturday. There was a sneak peek at River's Edge. It's the project right across the river. It was a hard hat tour, and I toured the facility, and it's really magnificent. It's a combination of one bedroom and 2 bedroom units, and most of them face the river. The views are nice. They have community areas for the residents there. They have meeting space because they teach programs on how to buy homes and what is entailed in buying homes. And so the Laconia Land Trust is a very great asset of this community, and that building's really looking good. I think they're planning for like July. They do charge their people rent to be in there. It's a function of their income level, and they do pay property taxes into the city. There's been a lot of discussion because in the newspaper, letters to the editor, that because of the constraints of the property tax cap and the trickle-down effect of what's had to manage under that, what the schools have had to cut and the restrictions placed on city departments, that, my God, we've got too many low-income people in these apartments. We've been approving too many apartments. This is the only facility that we have approved, other than way back, the Mechanic Street School put in 6 units, again, under the Land Trust.
Other than that, the low-income housing here in the city is either the Laconia Housing Authority or individual landlords.
I was going to ask, what low-income housing have we approved?
Well, it's just that, the Mechanic Street
Avery
years
Street?
ago.
There's quite a bit of it.
Was
Quite a bit of it. They're always in here.
Quite a bit of it.
The lady, what's her name? Linda Harvey.
Linda Harvey?
Yeah.
No, the only two that we've approved in Laconia has been Mechanic Street and the rivers that
Avery
go
Street.
here.
That's
Pardon me?
hers. Avery Street.
I don't remember.
I mean, she's always in here. She's like, been here, what?
Yeah, and how about the big factory building there?
Yeah.
Oh, that was,
Well, I mean, you can't say this group does this and this group, you put them together, you got a lot.
But Linda's here a lot.
well, those are the only properties that have been constructed.
How about the one on the other side of the street?
Probably did. She's been in here a lot.
Just
Well, she
before you
does
get to the
the
intersection there,
Scott Williams?
that was cut into the side of the hill there.
That's this one. This one? No?
Scott Williams is inside.
Yeah, Avery
Oh,
Street.
Vernitron.
Yeah,
Old
Vernitron.
Vernitron
Yeah.
property.
Oh, yes.
Avery Street,
You know,
Vernitron,
you
whatever.
could, you
Oh,
could
that-
go on,
Okay.
you go back,
The little yellow place.
start
over
10
So
years
just for
ago and come
perspective,
forward.
Vernitron
And
was
there's a lot of
under
them.
construction
lot of
when I
them.
got here in 2004, so you're talking almost 20 years ago.
You're old.
So, just one other quick thing. There was a notice in your packets about the Spring Planning and Zoning Conference in June 4th. It has been the policy of the city that those expenses are paid through the planning department, and I've attended these, and I would highly recommend this. It's down in Concord. It's a full-day thing for both new board members and senior board members. There's a series of breakout sessions that you can choose as to fitting your needs. But it's a tremendous day, and they have organized it very, very well. They used to have two of them, one in the spring and one in the fall, and they've
I
condensed
want
it
to go
down.
if that
Just-
violin guy is there. I want to go if that violin guy is.
I still have
a video.
You forgot that, huh?
I do.
Is there any other business to come before the planning board? Then minutes. I would like to, the minutes have been distributed, and I would like to ask for approval of the minutes of March 1st, 2016.
So moved.
Is the motion?
Second.
Motion made, second. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The minutes have passed unanimously. Down to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Quick, Jerry. Any opposed? No. Oh, the motion passes unanimously.
This